back to Magic in the Noise. Today we have an exciting show. We're going to be looking at the Baltic Sea Anomaly. The remote viewers that you see here with me today did an amazing job. Some of the remote viewers can't join us. They might be in chat, and so we will be monitoring chat. And if you have questions, that's the place to put them in so that you can participate as well. And so we're going to talk about the remote viewing results from the Baltic Sea Anomaly target. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what that is. And we're also going to talk about something strange that happened with the data set for this target and a target we did back in November. There's a little bit of a lag, so forgive me for that. I'll try to get that sorted out at some point. And then at the end, we're going to cover a prediction that was done in our New Year's Eve show that has come true. And so just a lot to do today. So let's get started. So David, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm David, the other half of Magic in the Noise, a remote viewer as well. And I have not seen the viewers work this week, so this will be the first time for me. So I'm very excited to find what they brought back.
And Cody?
Yep, I'm Cody from Australia. No, UCRB.
Nice. And next we have Chris.
Hey everyone, I'm Chris from Belgium. I've been doing remote viewer for 4 or 5 years now, and I'm using Sachet's method.
And John?
Hi, I'm John. I've been remote viewing for about 1.5 years. I'm from Kansas, and I use TDRV methodology.
Nice. Do you want to say what that is, the TDRV?
It was the methodology developed by, I think it was John Vivanco and Birdie back in the day. I learned from John, so.
I think it stands for transdimensional.
Yeah, transdimensional remote viewing. Yeah, yep.
Nice. And then go ahead, Evan.
Hi, I'm Evan. I'm in the Boston area. Been remote viewing for a few years now. I use HRVG.
And we have Claudia. Oh, Claudia, you're muted.
It's my mobile. I'm Claudia. I'm coming from the Netherlands. I am remote viewing now for around 3 years, and I'm using Sasha's method, full spectrum illumination. So that's me.
Thank you, Claudia. And I am Sasha. I am co-founder of Magic in the Noise with David. And I'm lagging a lot. I apologize, everyone. I might switch browsers at some point. But I'm very happy to have everybody here. We have amazing data to share. And I see that in the YouTube comments, or in the YouTube chat, we have Dennis. Dennis World Podcast is the channel name. And this is the channel for the team leader of Ocean X team. And so, Dennis, we're very happy to see you in the chat. And we're happy to be sharing this data with you about your discovery, essentially. So, and so with that, and Dennis, if you have questions as we go along, just put them in chat and we will respond to them. We'll be keeping an eye on that. And so let's go to the presentation. Hopefully that will resolve some of the lag that I'm experiencing that's driving me crazy a little bit. Let's see. Can I share that? And Claudia, we have you in two places, but that's fine. So here we go, the Baltic Sea Anomaly. Because when I'm doing the slides, I can only see the slides, I can't see the faces. If the remote viewers have anything to say, questions, comments, if you want to add detail, just interrupt me, jump in, and that works fine. And so first of all, this is what the Baltic Sea Anomaly looks like. It's on the ocean floor, obviously in the Baltic Sea. And a lot of time and effort and energy has been spent in trying to figure out what this is without more data. And I know that the Ocean Team X, they are coming out with new findings, and I think they're coming out with a new documentary, I think in 2026. And so I thought this would be a good time to put this out as a target. So the Ocean X team discovered the structure on the Baltic seafloor in June of 2011. They took extensive scans and they shared their data with the world, which we're very grateful for. And then it looks like in 2026, NSA confirmed they'll be producing a new documentary about new findings. The structure shows clear signs of artificial construction. And so that's why I thought this would be a good target for remote viewing. The remote viewers group data focused primarily on the structure itself. Amazing data showing the structure. And I want to emphasize that all of this was done blind. So the remote viewers were given a code and nothing else, just a random alphanumeric code. And from that, they were able to produce this data that matches the target so precisely. It's really astonishing. So yeah, that's fantastic. They also brought data back on the scan, the sonar scan that was used to collect the data. If ever I wanted to hide something from remote viewers, I would scan it with a sonar scan. It is such an effective distraction for remote viewers. It's technical, it's scientific, it has light and frequency and sound, and a lot of the remote viewers got quite caught up in it. So that was really interesting to see. The remote viewers also reported on a mysterious artifact that seems to perhaps have been removed from the anomaly structure itself, the anomalous structure, and perhaps placed in a secret chamber by a secret group, a group that favors checkerboard floors. So we'll talk more about that when we get to that data. And we also have data about a possible survivor of the wreck who encountered primitive humans when he washed ashore. So we'll go into that data to see is there evidence of that and what we can verify. Along the bottom, you can see the different names of the different viewers and they're color-coded. And so when their data is on screen, the frame around their data is in the color that matches their key. So here we have the box, this mysterious box. All the viewers talked about this box that has ancient information in it that is radiant. We have energy, an energy source information. We have energy or information about documents, how to do things, things that are maybe more mundane about governing, that kind of thing. So we'll look at that as well, but it was really fascinating to see this ancient relic that everyone seems to have picked up on. So just for how the key code works here, you can see, for example, Jeff in green has this image of this cube that's emitting energy. And Claudia, you have the box, the cube, and you're talking about the radiant energy and where it comes from. It's an ancient artifact, and we'll get more into your data later in our presentation. Michael, who might be in chat, but he's not in the live stream with us today. He's on holiday. I hope he's having fun in the sun. He also has this jewel box and this kind of treasure aspect to it. And then Cody I retasked specifically on this ancient artifact. And so poor Cody kept having to do pages and pages about this because his information was so fantastic. I just wanted to get more from him. So you'll see Cody in the... David?
Well, do any of you have an idea, with the box, did you guys feel anything unusual about that?
The YouTube channel that you can find more information about Ocean X Team. I keep saying Ocean Team X, but it's actually Ocean X Team. I apologize. Ocean X Team, they have their own YouTube channel, and they have a video all about the Baltic Sea anomaly that you can see here. And so they do show a little bit of footage of the original capture of it, and you can see how enormous it is. and there's a thick layer of sediment over top of it, but you can still see the underlying details of the structure. Here's something that we're going to, a structure, the circular half dome, we're going to see that come up in a few people's sessions. But we're also missing Patrick. Patrick's not with us in the live stream yet. Maybe he'll join us later. And so you can see here the Ocean X team, their exploration on the seafloor of this strange structure. And you can see a lot of this footage you're about to see in the data. Those columns, the rows, the walls, the circular artifact, the lines. Yeah, you can see here as well. Hopefully this small diver gives you a sense of the size of this thing. It's really enormous. And so here we have members of the Ocean X team just talking about the structure. And so we'll see some of their faces. There's Dennis there. And so we'll see some of their faces in the data as well. They have a sign, and some of the sonar scan, you'll see that coming up again and again in the data because it was so captivating. This is one of the scientists that was evaluating the data and having to deal with his skepticism in the overwhelming evidence that this is anomalous. And so that was really interesting to see. And we're going to see him come up in the data as well. Oh, and this is someone else that may or may not be in the data. You'll have to decide for yourselves. And so this just gives you a general sense. So people who are interested can go to their YouTube channel, Ocean X Team, and find out more. They have a lot of videos about the Baltic Sea anomaly in particular. So that should give people a general sense of what that is. And so now I will go back to the presentation. Oh, and is Michael here, David?
Yeah, it looks like he's in chat now.
Hi, Michael. We're glad to see you in chat. Okay, so let me grab the presentation again, the slides. And then let me share them on screen. There we go. Okay, so here is a picture of Dennis. Recently, he was seen with Jake Barber. There was an interview on Dennis's YouTube channel of Jake Barber. So I think that's an interesting connection. Jake Barber, who works with psionics, he works with remote viewers and the team at Ocean. So I think it makes it more relevant, the work that we're doing here today, I hope. So Cody, did you want to talk a little bit about this? Because I think you really picked up on Dennis in your data. As soon as I saw this in your session, I thought, oh, that's very much on target.
Yeah, that was towards the end. It just felt like a really young dude, to be honest. But yeah, I found it hard to describe, and I was pretty tired, so I just busted that out. But
it's really interesting to me that you have the details, you know, the wide face, the jawline, the lips, the shape, and even just the general feel. And so I just thought, and you know, it looks like a rock star kind of thing, has that kind of energy.
Yeah, it kind of just felt really like a daredevil sort of thing.
Daredevil, yes, yeah, the sense of daring. And you know, from watching the videos, I pick up on that energy about him as well. I think that was good data. And so then I wanted to talk a little bit about the box, just to give a little preview of the secret that I'm hoping we'll find out more about in coming revelations of what they found in the anomaly. And so here's an example, Claudia, where you're talking about this box, the ancient artifact. It's lost, it's found, alien origin. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how that felt in terms of the data coming through?
Yeah, well, it felt quite solid, quite big, and like as if there was a heart in it. It was beating, you know, that radiating in a pace which was a certain rhythm. And yeah, I did see it like a big thing, not something tiny. So
Yes,
That's
that
how it felt.
that was one of the things. It's one of the reasons that I retasked Cody, and we'll see that in the data coming up. I wasn't sure at first, is the box the craft itself, or is there a box within the craft that's been removed? And so we'll see later on what conclusions I came to. Here's Michael's data. For him, it's a jeweled box, but again, it feels esoteric, dense layers of encryption, secrets that need to be kept to safeguard them against the dilution of the collected wisdom or profanity. And again, it's this idea of like the secret group that says the humans are not intelligent enough or sophisticated enough or responsible enough to deal with this information. And so we're just going to keep it for us. We're going to keep it secret for the elites. I think that happens a lot. So it was interesting to see that coming through in Michael's data. That there was also some of the information that felt really secular, as well as some that felt maybe more holy or having to do with a higher status. So that was interesting. He also talks about the outsider. So the subtext to the study that's not well understood by outsiders. So again, this idea of like some people are prepared for this kind of information and some people are just not. So moving on to the next. Oops, sorry. And then here we have data from Jeff. This was amazing, I think, because Jeff shows us the stairway, and we can see on the actual relic or the craft, the anomaly, the stairs that lead up. And then he has the map of the inside. And where he has this cube, this radiating energy, there's actually a circular dome-like projection that we saw in the video. So there's something here, and Jeff marked the exact spot that is located on the craft itself, on the ocean floor, in this sketch that he did. So I thought that was quite interesting. So he has this idea of this, that there's storage of information and data that's kept in here, and that there were experiments in here, harvesting of data, testing, expanding on old knowledge. And it's not clear if this is the original purpose of this craft or if this is what's happening now with people who are exploring it. So we'll look at the data a little bit more. I was hoping that Jeff would be here today to talk to us a little bit about this because I thought it was very interesting. He's talking here about the chemical reactions that he sees related to this cube. He's seeing the atoms, molecules, the arrangement of the atoms and molecules, and this sense of self-organization occurring. And so he has hydroxide, phosphorus, sodium hydroxide, so different kind of molecules, and water. So I was hoping he could talk to us. If he joins us later, then we'll have to ask him about this. And then Cody, you have this wealth of data about this artifact that was found on in the anomaly. You want to tell us a little bit about the data that we see here?
Yeah, just it felt like it was two different locations, like it was found somewhere, and then that star thing was plaguing me the whole time, but it felt like it's not there anymore. Someone's grabbed it. And yeah, now it's in another place that's locked up.
So it really seemed like you're describing some kind of a relic, star-like shape, and they stumble upon it. The explorers stumble upon it, and then they remove it, and they take it somewhere secret.
But it felt very brittle, like it would break very easy, whatever it is.
Interesting.
Almost like glass. I think it was how I described it at some point.
And it's interesting that you have this idea. Where did it come from? Something like a meteor, right? Something shooting through space from maybe far away. And we see that in Claudia's data as well. That idea of something, an alien origin, lost object that is related to an asteroid or a meteor. So I thought that was really fascinating.
It also felt like it's worth a shitload of money.
That would be true, whatever it is that's in there. And just this idea that they've secured it away from public eyes, that seems to come through in a lot of people's data. And then here, Cody, you did an exceptional job of drawing the actual anomaly. I think you did the visual here on the bottom right. I think that's incredible, right? You're really looking at it from when you're coming down on level with the object. And then you're seeing it maybe as a building, feels old. So that seemed to have come through very clearly for you.
Yeah, well, it definitely felt man-made. So whatever that is.
Yeah, that was in everybody's session. Everybody had a sense of something man-made. And so I think to me, it's very convincing, very persuasive that this is not just, you know, rocks on the bottom of the ocean, that this is something, that there is a building there, that there's a really intended structure. Here we have Michael's data. And again, he has the kind of circular aspect to it. He has the sense of ruins, which obviously is on point. And then it was funny because he's drawing waves in the sky and he writes down like, there are waves in the sky. This is weird data. It makes sense because the ruins are on the ocean floor, of course. And we often see that in remote viewing where the water, ether, air, sometimes it's hard to tell if you're looking at something underwater or if you're looking at something in space. And so I just think if you're starting to draw waves in the sky, then you might probe for, is this underwater? So that was kind of cool to see. Also, it's interesting to see there was a lot of correspondences with your data, Cody, from the other viewers. And here we can see how Michael drew this little temple here. And I think it looks very much like the one that you drew. So that was a really nice little resonance between your data sets. And then, so here we saw Michael describing it as a domed building, a space for the protection. Esoteric knowledge is employed at the site, is managed by a knowledge class. So again, we don't have direct access to this. Only specific people are going to be granted access to it. And then here he's seeing it, and I thought this was really good, a barnacled structure, a structure with barnacles on it. So now he is placing it properly on the bottom of the ocean floor. And he had this association with Palmyra, the ruins of Palmyra. And it was interesting because when I started doing a bit of research into Palmyra, I found this coin, the Antionians. I knew I was going to get that wrong. But this coin is specific to Palmyra. And interestingly enough, it has the Queen Juno on the back of it with this star. It's one of the only examples where we see Queen Juno depicted on these coins with the star. So the coins around that era, right? When we look at Roman coins and in that area of the world in that time, it's the only one I found that has this star shape on it. And it's just such a good match to your star shape, Cody, which is kind of mirrored in Evan's data. That I thought that was a weird link. So I think there's probably more to that. And the idea of Queen Juno, who is a goddess, we're going to see how other people picked up on that sense of a goddess later on in the data. Here's another example of the same coin with the queen and the star. And John, this is your data here where you felt this energetic life form with maybe a divine sense to it. So I thought that you're kind of touching on something similar, and we'll see more of that later. So here, Michael has it as this temple, and he's picking up on the structures on the top, that dome-like structure on the top. And again, I think that's a good match with your data, Cody. So Michael went into more detail, microfluids processor. I thought that was really interesting. He's seeing the structure of the ship itself, and then he's seeing water rushing through it. And so that is coming through. And he's seeing himself looking at sunrise on the ocean. He's picking up a lot of data about the structure itself and where it is and what it looks like. There was a lot of data about kind of computing advanced technology, and we'll get to that a little bit later. This I thought was really spectacular data in his session. He sees these workers and they're working alongside these walls, and he describes them as like the walls of alien ships in the Alien franchise, the Alien movie franchise. And so again, that's a perfect description, alien walls that are in this structure. Again, suggesting that this is an artificial construction. Geometric figures on shifting terrain. I think that that's a really good description of the craft itself. And both Michael and Cody, you were both picking up on the texture of the track. So the anomaly itself has this track in the seabed. It looks like this object slid to a stop on the ocean floor. And I think that both Michael and Cody, you both did a good job of communicating that in your data. And someone just joined, so I will add them. Oh, it's Evan coming back. So I think it was interesting as well to see the correspondence between your imagery. And then, John, did you want to talk a little bit about this? Because I think it's a good match. And Evan, I'm just going to mute you if that's okay, just because I'm hearing a bit of echo.
Yeah, that was I really wasn't sure what that was. If that's, I mean, it does definitely look like a track, but in my perception, it was like there was some sort of energy source that was kind of emitting things in all directions, but this one path was like a void. That area was blocked or something different. But a lot of times I get stuff like that, and it's just conceptual for some shape. So it very well could just be the track.
I think it comes. Yeah, go ahead, David.
I'm not saying this is true at all. Just based on John's data, what he's saying, and then the visual and stuff. It's like the assumption, right, is that this thing moved across. But it's like, what if this thing shot out a beam of energy, right, and that carved out the ground? It's actually a different mechanism, essentially, that caused that.
And we'll also see that the sonar scan essentially is an energy point that's emitting sound energy frequencies in that pyramidal shape. And so we'll see a little bit about that later. But I think for this particular data point, I think it's good for either interpretation. And Michael says about the waves in the sky. I think we've all done that where we kind of see waves in the sky and we're not really sure what it is. So I think that that's normal in remote viewing. So here, there's a correlation, John, between your data and Michael's about this figure with energy above its head or streaming from its head. So do you want to tell us a little bit more about that? Because it was really interesting that you got something so similar, you and Michael.
Yeah, like for me, it was a real faint. It was just a real faint perception of this figure, but it felt female. But there was something above the head of the subject, and it was a strange shape, kind of like a star or some sort of, but it felt energetic, like it was glowing or was emitting something, or maybe it was symbolic. But that was pretty unique. It kind of came out of nowhere.
And so
do you think that relates to Queen June?
I'd never heard. I'm not familiar with that, but after she mentioned it and looking at the coin, I mean, very well could be. I mean, I don't know, but yeah, it's very interesting. And when I saw the other sketch from Michael, yeah, that's when I was like, oh, okay, well, that could be similar.
And it's unclear to me whether we're talking about the anomaly and the seabed track or whether we're talking about the sonar scan. But I think a lot of good remote viewing data can be interpreted on different levels of analysis. And so I think this works on both levels. And so Michael says, for the tower image, he got impressions of different types of waves. Parts seemed longitudinal and parts seemed transverse. So maybe sonar versus the ocean waves. I think that's a really good insight, Michael. And that would make a lot of sense. I meant to take your transverse wave data point and put it in. It might be somewhere in the slides. There are a lot of slides. But I think that's a really good interpretation. And Evan, I put this here of your data, your element in your data, where you had this kind of long pole and coils. Can you tell us a little bit about how that felt for you coming in?
Yeah, it felt like some kind of like a flywheel in some sort of engine, as though I was looking down a very large golden pole to a device that would spin.
So that fits in with what David was suggesting, that idea of, did the anomaly itself emit a beam of energy? And is that what we're seeing on the seabed? So really, really interesting there. Here's more of Jeff's data. He has it as a puzzle piece, and I think that works with what it looks like. And that idea of it being really quiet in there now, and that there are people that are researching in there. So I think this would be the explorers. He also brings up the idea of a satellite. He has this growth in a peninsula, and again, I think he's picking up on that little dome on the top of the ship. And the idea of fast motion. So like you, Evan, a lot of people start talking about motion, fast motion. He has it like a pinball, and we'll see in John's data, he has it as a baseball being struck. So we'll come back to that. And again, yeah, go ahead.
Just sorry, it's hard for me to, anyways, Michael says that, I'm not sure which piece he's referring to that made him think that the crown chakra, possibly something being emitted and having effects.
That would be this data here. Yeah, so I think that would map on to the idea that the object itself is maybe had put out some kind of a beam, energetic beam, and that's what left the track on the seabed. Yeah, that would make sense. A lot of people brought back data about this idea of storage of information. The information is being stored in here, that the information was harvested, collected, and then was kept here. And so it's interesting to think of when this ship arrived and what its original purpose was. And then Claudia, you also had this idea of something moving in motion and in silence. Do you want to say a little bit about this here in relation to that?
Yeah, when I saw this and I knew what the target was, I saw the the anomaly crashing, and then because I said it feels light, but as a whole it's heavy. So I think that due to the speed, it felt light, and then when it it was settled at one point, it was heavy. So and no silence. So I think that's underwater.
Yes.
I think I saw that.
Nice. That's really, really nice
Yeah.
data. And then John, you described it, which I thought was really funny, reminding you of a jungle gym. I think that's a good description. Did you want to say a little bit about this data?
Sure. It reminded me of a jungle gym, and that's about it. Yeah, no, it was just like kind of tubes going everywhere, and kind of like just a lot of different angles and arcs and stuff kind of intertwined. The best way I could describe it.
And we're going to see, so for the audience, at the end of these slides, we're going to see data from a November target. If you look at the data here that we have, from John, where it's like an outer layer or shield, keep that in mind, because we're going to see something nearly exactly the same coming in from John Dixon. So yeah, at the end of the presentation, I'll show you corresponding data from the November live stream. Try to see the parallels, I suppose. So if you can keep track of all the data, there's a lot of data. Evan, did you want to say something about this? Because I think these were good data points for the description, physical description of the craft.
Sure. The structure was strange. It was very much like it was something domed. The engine part felt like it was interior to whatever I was looking at, and then the jellyfish like thing on the right, that I couldn't. This is where it started to get strange. It was something organic yet biological.
That did come through in a few people. We saw it in Michael's data a bit earlier. I didn't point it out, but it was on the slide. That idea of, is this a bioorganic thing? And so we'll see a little bit more of that shortly. But I thought that was good data. And here, I think this was a really good depiction of the craft itself. And then you start introducing this idea of a collision, of thrust and a collision. But I just thought your sketches here were really, really good.
It definitely felt like something that was moving and stopped very suddenly.
Yeah, and you had that here as well, right? In the center sketch here. I think that's a really good mirror of the track that's left, and then the anomaly comes to a stop. You had the idea of people on a boat, commotion near water, ocean waves. So you were really on target. It was really good data, good session. And then, John, you saw it as appearing crumbled on one end. And it's funny because we saw Jeff describing it as a pinball in terms of its motion. You have it as a baseball. Even just the image of it on a seabed with a track, it does actually look like a baseball being hit by a baseball bat. So that was kind of amusing. How did that come through for you in terms of the crumpled at one end?
Yeah, it was pretty. It was kind of a pretty kind of clear perception. It just felt like something was smashed, condensed, crumpled on one end, and felt like a structure. Pretty straightforward.
You know, I think this is really good data when we look at it all together, because there are some people that are trying to, some skeptics that are trying to suggest, oh, it's just a mushroom, or it's just some natural formation. But I think the fact that you all picked up on this kind of information suggests otherwise. And so here, John, you got more about the collision.
Yeah, I couldn't get. I had this come up so many times in my session. Just the idea of two structures or a moving structure colliding with something else and getting hit. Yeah, I couldn't get out of that.
I think because it was good data, so I thought that was really good. And then this is an interesting correspondence, Chris. This comes up in two different places in your session, but here you're talking about the future and the dragon. And John also has this life form on top of a dragon. I'm thinking of primitive tribes seeing some kind of a craft flying above the sky and then crashing into the ocean. I wonder if they would describe it as a dragon. So you want to say a little bit about how that data came through for you, Chris?
So like you said, it was in my timeline that was more for the future. So the way I interpret it is that more that something that had power in the past is going to go against the wall, in the sense that it's going to stop having so much power, and that it would be the end of an era. So I not really sure what that could mean, but maybe at some point there will be some revelations about what this thing is.
Yes. Yeah. Interesting data point. Interesting correlation. And then
is there any indication of how old it is? Because I'm just wondering if this might represent like a different, like it happened like really long ago where there was like pterodactyls or something.
Oh, Dennis, if you're still there, and you can give us a sense of if there's any public information on the estimated age of the artifact, that would be fantastic. And then Chris, tell us a little bit about this. So
it's less nice sketches than what we've seen with the others, but the idea was I was really feeling some kind of grid-like wet structure flat on the ground there. So to me, this is kind of a representation of how the structure is at the bottom of the ocean for the moment. I had this sense of wet here, and also this idea of rain. So yeah, it's not spot on, but there's really that idea of water that's there.
I think it's good data, definitely. And I apologize to Chris because I gave the target quite a while ago. It was supposed to be for August, but then the last minute there was a conference about cozy rev mirrors that I was given information about and invited to attend. And so then I had to drop everything and go to Montenegro to learn more about cozy rev mirrors because I have one, I built one. And I'll be sharing more information about that soon. But before I left, so anyone who had asked me for a retask extension, I just kind of said, I'm going for a week. So, you have time. If you need more time to do a retask, that's fine. Just send it in to me before the Friday of the live stream. And then I got back And I felt so much pressure to get so much done. And so then I decided, okay, on Monday, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to do my slides for the live stream. And I forgot that I had given people deadline extensions. So poor Chris sits down to do his retask and gets an email from me with a target reveal. So then he couldn't do the retask. So
it's my fault. I was super late.
I just felt bad because you were definitely getting good data. I think that this is good data here. I think if you had done a second session, you really could have narrowed it down to the specifics. But I still think, I do think you're picking up on the artifact itself and even on the image that comes through from the scan. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
And then here's just matching data from Jeff, who's talking about waves, motion, fluid. So here's something that occurred to me when I was looking at Jeff's data. Jeff is talking about, is someone trying to use an old, worn mechanical device? And is there an accident? Maybe because of that. And I just wondered, because if you have the ability to create something this technologically advanced, then what happens that you end up crashing? I think that that's a bit bizarre. And so the idea that it was a different civilization that created it, and then someone came along, found it, discovered it, and then tried to fly it and crashed it into the ocean. That's the data that Jeff Sessions seems to be suggesting here. And I think that's a really interesting theory. So I don't know. Everyone brought back this idea of Transformers. So John, you said something reminds you of Transformers, and that's such a perfect description. Evan, you really went into detail about this as well. Do you want to say a little bit about this?
Sure. Yeah, this was very strange. I got a strong sense of like there's a Borg-like element going on here. But if you're a fan of the Star Trek franchise, unlike the Borg, which can be redeemed, you can sort of pull the entity out of the Borgness. There was none of that. It was bloody and messy, and they were fused with technology, and they just accepted it. All that from a very fleeting impression.
That's really interesting as well, because Michael had that sense of the circuits, right? And I think we'll see that in a later slide, but I think it matches really well with your data here. But then here's more about this idea of like transformers and pieces that come together and bend and fold. Michael has these beams with holes in them. And then Cody, in your session, I see the exact same thing, structural beam with holes in it. I wonder what that's about, why it felt so important that you both not only described it, but also sketched it. So it'll be interesting if we ever get to peek inside of this anomaly to see why that was so important. Cody, tell us a little bit about this feeling like the shape can change, because everyone did seem to have data related to that.
Yeah, I didn't really explore that too much, but yeah, it felt metallic, and yeah, it just felt like it can open up, and maybe it had something to do with the ship. I don't know.
Yeah, so here we have John saying something reminds you of Transformers, and John, I think I have more data from you about that in the following slide. And we have Evan talking about this as well, the robot hand. And then here we go, John, something is stretched. You have outside parts folding in. Do you want to talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, I had kind of throughout my session, I had multiple kind of perceptions of the idea of something that can reduce footprint or fold in or transform. On the top left, I had the feeling of something being stretched or bent, and it may break. And when I was looking at the slides, I saw kind of at the end, looks like John Dixon had something similar, but it was something's meant to bend in the middle and rotate or something. I saw something similar, but yeah, it just felt like there was a lot of transforming going on, a lot of folding, and it was something that could kind of change shape or fold in condense in on itself or something.
I think that's really interesting. Dennis Worrell podcast. So Dennis says he doesn't know the age yet, but definitely it arrived there before the last ice age. So that's very interesting data that matches with some of the data in the sessions. And Michael says they sort of look like the anodes and cathodes of car batteries, but just on the ocean. He's talking about the beams of the holes in them, the idea of a cathode and an anode. So maybe different kind of use of electricity for energy. That would be really interesting. One of the things you have here as well, John, that I thought was interesting was this idea that they're trying to get a signal or they're trying to receive communication. Again, here, because you have this blowing a horn, I think this data might actually relate more to the sonar scan and trying to receive the signal from the sound bouncing back up off the anomaly. But you had really good data here. This idea of these parts that are folding in. I'd like to hear more about that. So you have more here, right? The structure has supports and anchors. It feels like they're in tension. And Jeff, then in his session, he has a resonant information. He's mirroring your data. He's talking about the four corners and they can kind of be folded up. And he draws it in different places in his session. And so the data kind of keeps coming through to him that this is important, that this is meaningful. And it seemed like most of you did have data about this. And so I'd be really curious about how this relates to the craft. Does it have shape-shifting abilities? Maybe not now because it's a ruin on the ocean floor, but when it's active and when it works properly. And Chris, there's something about your data here, the triangle, I think that kind of fits, because if you look at John's data with the triangles folding into the square, and you look at Jeff's data, which is again the kind of curvy triangles folding into the square, and then I saw this. So do you want to talk a little bit about your data here, sacred geometry, and the triangle folding into the star?
Yep, I really had a sense of something old. So you can see all the words I used here, something old and sacred with some sort of encoding. So I had this sequence. I'm not sure what sequence is that. I don't know if it's a Fibonacci or something else. But you know, when you add the numbers to the previous one, I had that popped up at that moment. And I also had the idea of the eternal perpetual movement that's in balance. So something that would go on forever. I didn't use the term free energy, but that kind of idea.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Very, very relevant. Definitely. Yeah, I think you had really good data there. David, you were going to say something about stars?
Yeah, just, you know, looking at the viewers' data. Not again, this stuff is hard to pin down. Remote viewing is like very tricky and difficult. You need lots of analysis, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I was just sort of looked at the data so far, and it made me wonder if there was a linkage to the Vimanas, the flying, you know, craft from India history. Partially because you showed me the June thing, which made me think a little bit of Ishtar,
Yes.
possibly, you know, as a relationship, but that made me start to think about the Vimanas. So anyways, I did a quick look, and it just basically on the internet, because I know nothing about them, it claims that there's some text that describes how they could absorb solar energy to fly. So maybe that's relevant. Maybe that's just me, you know, grabbing at straws, but it's just a thought that came up.
I didn't know about that. That's really interesting. Oh, it'll come up later, the sun. So when we get to that data, remind us of this point, because that's really interesting. I wanted to point out, Chris, you had the jewels, royalty. Oh, that came through in a lot of people's sessions in relation to the box. And so I think that you had really, really good data on this page about some of the main themes. And then we're back to Cody here. Cody, I think you just had a really good data about the placement of it. You know, a sense of a canyon. The sense of a mine is interesting. both because the Ocean X team are kind of mining the ocean floor for discoveries in a sense, right? So I thought that was interesting. A lot of people had the sense of a factory. And that was data that I saw coming through again and again. Jeff had the box as well here, but because of how he described it, highlights cornice silhouettes. I feel like that had more to do with the sonar scan. I'm hearing a little bit of echo. I'm not sure where from. Yeah. And then Claudia, tell us this. I thought this was such a nice little sketch of the craft itself that you have as a shell, which obviously is related to the ocean. Oh, you're muted, Claudia.
Yeah.
Oh, no, you're not. Yeah.
Not again, not anymore. Yeah, this was one of the first sketches I made when I started with the session. And yeah, it felt clearly as something which was round and closed, and but also something which could open if it wanted. So it's not alive, but it's something which could open itself.
It can open, it can stay closed, and the idea that you can't necessarily force it open easily. I think that was in your data, came through again and again. That was really fascinating.
Well, I said it. Sorry, it felt cold and wet because nowhere I talked about water or something on the ocean floor, or I did mention sonar, but later when I got the feedback, I read, I felt something wet, so I was happy with that.
Yeah, and you also talked a lot about the weight, that it feels light, and again, that's interesting if it's a craft that flies. And then here you had a little more about it flying in formation. So I wonder if there was more than one, and only one of them crashed.
Yeah, they could collide because someone else also mentioned two items which collided. Yeah, I think it was John.
Yeah, both John and Evan. So far, we've seen their data on a collision. So I thought that was kind of interesting there. And then Evan, tell us a little bit about this, because this star relic that you relate to outer space as well. It was just the same sketch as Cody's, and that was really striking to me.
I wasn't really sure what the star was. It definitely it felt sci-fi. I think I was more tuned into maybe the occupants. I was really kind of almost obsessed with the idea that this was some kind of hybrid biological technological entity, and it was invasive. I don't really know what I meant by invasive, other than it had like kind of like a bug-like quality to it. Definitely not of this earth.
That's both interesting and disturbing. Go ahead, David.
Just for, because no matter how many times I see this stuff, it just blows my mind. I just cannot not be blown away. But to the people who might watch at some point and are not necessarily remote viewers, look at how you have two viewers blind. They have no clue. They have absolutely no clue what this target is. They don't have any idea. They're not talking to each other about the targets, nothing. They just collect the data. They use the protocols, right? And they produce a star, and it's like, but it's not just a star shape, and it's very similar. They've decided to circle the star. Like, how many people are going to just like, oh, I see a star. Normally they just write a star down or draw a star. They wouldn't encode it with two circular lines. Like, they both have it, like a double circle that's both right there. So like, to me, these are specifics that are too unique to be coincidence. If we look at probability, stats, things like that. So I'm an engineer, for those who don't know, and this is where my mind goes, where I'm just like, wow, this is insane. So yeah, that's just my little to the remote viewers here, this is nothing unusual, but to the audience who might be watching, like I'm still blown away by this.
Yeah, I think it's spectacular. It's really incredible to see. Here's another example of it. So Michael has a brain kind of on a plate, and this looks a little bit like the ship, the craft itself. But when I see Cody that has this unknown thing that's on display in the museum, but in a hidden place for a secret group, the correlation there I think is really high. So Cody, tell us, because this was related to the artifact. Yes, Cody?
Yeah, that's the star thing. Whoever's grabbed it or whatever, that's kind of kept on display, but hidden at the same time.
Yeah, so I thought that was a really nice correlation as well. And then John, again, you're talking about folding, position, curving, shifting, the shape changing. Here you're talking about the collision. Something gets washed ashore, maybe a vehicle. Someone has the key. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that data? Because I think that there's a lot of ideas there that are quite interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this data is kind of the same data or not, as far as I can't remember where this came in my session, but the mirroring movement of another subject, that was a little interesting, and the something energetic seems to happen in two places. I really didn't know how to describe that, and I still don't really know what that meant, but I felt like it meant something. And the washing ashore, I had that twice. One time it felt like a structure, like a vehicle. The other time it felt like a subject. Maybe it was a subject in a vehicle. But that was a really, really kind of unique perception. And I don't know what to make of it other than it felt like it could have been conceptual, like maybe nothing actually washed ashore. Maybe it was just kind of like discovered in the ocean. But yeah, it was pretty unique.
Well, there is data from other people that does seem to suggest that there might have been a survivor that washed ashore. So we'll get to that data, I think, in the next little slides. Claudia, here as well, you have this idea of sadness, lost, emotional, someone missing someone. Do you want to talk a little bit about this? Because it seems to correlate a little bit with John's idea of maybe something washing ashore or someone.
Yes, well, overall there at the end of the session, it felt sad. Yeah, missing someone. Well, it's already a long time ago that we did this one. Yeah. Although this was recast.
Well, even the idea that you have an abandoned house far away from civilization, I would see that as the craft on the ocean floor to some extent.
Yeah, can be.
Yeah,
can be. Yeah, far away from civilization, maybe therefore lost, far away from the loved ones. That's something like that. Can be. Yeah.
And you have it as hidden and covered. So I think you had good data there. And then Cody, talk to us a little bit more about this. I know you gave us a lot of data about this artifact. Here you had a different version of it, this shiny, bright, reflective object. Did you pick up on those being the same or different?
That sketch was really early on, but it is the same thing.
Okay.
I also did pick up at some point there's another one, but I didn't explore that too much. I don't think from memory.
There's a second
one. It's all the same thing. It just kept coming through and coming through. But yeah, it reminded me of that pyrite sketch I did in one of the other live stream targets.
I vaguely remember that.
Really shiny and bright and
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that was the November
Yeah,
session.
I got no idea what it is.
Yeah, that was the November session, Cody. So that was the session for the target that seems to be intermingled with this one, the Klaus Donna artifacts. For Dennis, Klaus Donna found artifacts in South America, and I tasked the remote viewers with one of them, and it seems to be linked to this artifact, to this anomaly on the Baltic seafloor. And so here's just more data from Cody's session, more about it. It comes from a meteor. There's something, something flying through space and then landing on Earth. And then now all of a sudden people start giving me data about something like a plane, something like a propeller, this idea of something having something like a cockpit. Not quite, but something similar. So I thought that was really interesting to see. So Evan has the propeller, and Cody, you drew the plane, the motor maybe of the plane, and the cockpit. So that was kind of interesting, the idea of something that's flying, it's controlled, it's piloted. I thought that was really, really quite fascinating. And you have that it could be symbolic of a tight space. You have the pilot in there, so really nice data. And then Evan, you kind of expanded that propeller data out a little bit more, and kind of brought back a little bit more data about it. Do you want to say a few things about this?
It's just confusing. It was like a compeller, but not. I don't know what I meant. I said it's like a compeller, but not cards. It was some kind of device. I couldn't really figure out what it was. I was kind of combining concepts here. There was this idea of like destroyed metal from a crash or a collision or something, as well as like I was conflating that with, again, that biological concept of combining technology and biology in a way that couldn't be undone.
Right.
It felt like almost, I don't know, kind of demonic, or it's very hard to describe.
Interesting. That's quite interesting. Something about that makes me think of Battlestar Galactica, where they make life forms from technology.
Yes, yeah, like a cyborg, something like that. Yes.
Yes. And then Cody, in your session, a star thing found by accident that someone like trips over. Again, I really see that as the Ocean X team that kind of tripped over the anomaly. They kind of found it by happenstance on the seabed. You have data about the seabed, about finding, and then inside the anomaly, they find this star. Someone finds this star-shaped relic. And so I thought that was really, really interesting. And then here's more of your data. It feels like it's in a secure location now. It's been taken away. It's been put underground. I hope we get more information about it. And then
Was
here's
that
more.
was that sea ever dry? That like no water there at some point in time?
Oh, was that seabed dry? Was it above water at some point? Oh, do you think that it crashed before it was an ocean bed?
Oh, maybe. Yeah, it's just because I didn't really get water at all. Like it felt more like a desert.
I do wonder. Yeah, it would depend on the timing, right? And so it depends on how long it's been sitting there. But I think that would be very possible, yes. So here, like I showed earlier, everyone's picking up on this box that correlates, Cody, with your data about this artifact that was found. And they maybe have more data about information that was also in that box. Here's more of Jeff's data about the chemical aspects, heat as a byproduct, plasma, the unseen template. So we'll have to talk to him about that at a later date. And then Cody, you had two locations. So you have the brownish dusty landscape that the star-shaped object is from. That I thought was really interesting, that you were giving us information about its origin, and then where it is now. So really interesting origin data. And then that something now is on display. So just a lot. Yeah. Poor Cody gives me a session and he keeps seeing the star. And then I wanted to clarify, is the star the object itself, the craft itself, or is it something in the craft? So I made him do a whole retest session on the star. He just kept putting in the notes like, oh, I keep seeing this star thing. I think that's how it is in remote viewing. When the tasker really wants information about something quite narrow, as a remote viewer, you can kind of feel it, and you feel like, I keep getting brought back to this very specific element.
It definitely felt like it came out of it, like it was inside the structure.
What's interesting too is that just I'm not saying this is true. That's just what I see. The hands look like a clamshell. You know, I'm thinking Claudia's information, so it kind of looks like a clamshell with a pearl, you know, a star inside or whatever. It's funny.
That's true. And the having to take care with this thing, you don't want to break it, that it's something that's fragile. That comes through in other people's data as well. Here we see it in Claudia's data, that sense of something fragile, handled with care. And so I thought that was really interesting. And the idea of something glassy that comes through, we'll see later as well. And then here, Cody, you introduced the checkerboard floor people. Who seem to maybe be the keepers of the artifact that's related to the Baltic Sea anomaly and to the 8-pointed star. And I think that there's a lot there that I would like to go into, but it's so complex. And also, I don't want to get censored by YouTube. So I don't really want to go into it. But if people are curious, maybe we could have a conversation just on Patreon at some point in the future about the relationship between this in particular and the checkerboard floor groups of people. Yeah, and just this idea, they're taking it because they can, and they're putting it away so that the rest of the humans don't get to see it. Only they do, and they get to study it. And then in Jeff's session, Jeff shows me the exact same sketch. He shows me the checkerboard floor, and then he has the antlered figure, which is maybe Cernunnos, the god Cernunnos of the Celts. The Celtic god Cernunnos, this is, we see at CERN, they did that weird parade ritual to Cernunnos when they opened CERN. It's the horned god, and he's related. Basically, the god Cernunnos becomes the green man, and we're going to see how that ties into Chris's data about a wild man. And I think that ties into possibly a survivor from this crash that then went to shore and found primitive humans. And he obviously had a lot of knowledge, a lot of technology, was very advanced. And then I think that maybe there are traces in some cultures of the knowledge that he was able to impart to these primitive tribes. And so I think that when we look at ancient gods and some of those stories, there seems to be something here that's resonating with that. And I just thought it was really interesting to see Jeff and Cody submit such similar data points about the checkerboard floor people groups. And here, you know, Jeff is talking about genetics, X and Y, high value item, the checkerboard floor people groups, one business posing as a front for another. So maybe these groups of people who, you know, get access to some of this information and decide that they're not going to share it with the rest of the humans, maybe they're posing as another group in order to gain access to the knowledge, to the anomaly itself. So just something to kind of think about, I suppose. More data from him. So here's a little bit about the checkerboard floor groups of humans and some of the correlations that maybe tie in, especially with the horned god, the Cernunnos, and how that might tie into all of this in terms of groups who, you know, we talked about Jake Barber earlier because he was interviewed by Dennis. Jake Barber, who works with psionics. And they hire remote viewers, they hire people who have psychic ability to interact with UFOs. I think they've been involved in UFO craft retrievals. And so it would be interesting to see, obviously, there would be a role for that with this Baltic Sea anomaly if it is determined to be a UFO. And so here, John, I thought you could talk to us about this. You have the guards overseeing some kind of an operation on these walls. And I just think that your walls really match to the walls we saw in the video of the anomaly itself when the camera kind of pans overhead. And I think it's a really good match for Michael's walls that he described as the walls in an alien ship.
Yeah, I didn't get the alien ship part, but it was yeah, I just had this image of these walls, and someone was kind of overseeing some sort of work, and there was something below that was important. That's pretty much it. That's all I got.
Yeah, wow, I thought that was an interesting correlation here. And then we get to the divers. So it looks like, I don't know, tell me from your data, did you feel like, has the US military already sent divers in to explore the anomaly? Or are you looking at something that will happen? Is this some of the data, or has maybe Ocean X team snuck in and looked around a little bit? Is that what we're going to find out in their documentary that comes, I think, next year, maybe? What was your sense in terms of the divers? Let's start with Cody.
Well, the way that come through was they jumped out of a plane, but yeah, it could be just divers. So, but that was going to get that star thing. I got really stuck on that in the retask.
Yeah, so I think that would make sense if they found some kind of an artifact in the anomaly. So then you'd have to ask, who are these people who are rappelling down into the craft to collect it? And John, you also had the sense of these people scaling a wall.
Yeah, in my perception, they were scaling a wall, but I figured they actually weren't. I figured it had something to do with subjects being suspended, doing something, climbing or dropping or something.
Yeah, so I think that would make sense. And again, here as well, even you have the mask on the face, Cody, as though he's a heist, he's stealing something. But I think it's actually the scuba mask that was coming through with a bit of distortion. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then just more data that kind of correlates with this. People exploring this craft, something is hidden. Someone knows that there's something hidden inside. A team of people go in to find it, to collect it, and then evacuating people to safety. So maybe while they were in there trying to find the artifact, maybe it wasn't quick and easy. Some information about transfer of energy. So this is starting to bring us to the sonar scan, I think. Yeah. So this was an irresistible distraction for remote viewers. So again, I think hiding data from remote viewers, just scan it with a sonar scan. Everyone was so and charmed, I don't know, just compelled to describe this in very precise detail. And so here we see the different kinds of elements that are involved in the scan. And you see the multi-beam sonar transducer in the bottom right, and it looks like two cans. We're going to see that in the data. Michael, you have the line of sight, the flame at the top, so the light coming out, the energy coming out. You have the sense of acoustics. It's great data, right? You even have like that sense of longitudinal waves you're mentioning here. All of this data I thought was really, really good data to describe the sonar scan. So that was a good job for that. And then Patrick gave exquisite details about the sonar scan. And so that was really interesting to see. So he was really going into detail and getting how it works and what it is and what it's doing. And that was interesting. Cody, at one point we'll see in the coming slides, you're talking about throwing stones into glass houses. And there's a data point here in Patrick's session as well, talking about a glass house that's highly reflective. So just something there that was kind of interesting. And then the scan results comes through. You can see in the video from the Ocean X team YouTube video how it looks on the display. And you can see in Patrick's session, he's really recreating that idea of like, this is kind of like a hologram of the information. So he did a really good job of describing that. Unfortunately, it's not really the target. It's relevant to the target in general, but I would say it's more target adjacent data. And so, and again, trying to map out and that sense of the triangular formations that's coming through. And that's just very shiny to remote viewers. Anything that has a pyramid shape and has frequencies and is encoding information, that's obviously going to suck remote viewers in. And so there are a lot of pages and pages and pages. And I felt bad for the remote viewers because so many of you just spent pages on the sonar. Here we see some of Jeff's data about it, but I thought, yeah, that's talking about the sonar scan. And Claudia, you gave amazing information about the sonar scan as well, how it works, what it is, and even that it's a device that they're using radio messages and that they're looking for extraterrestrials. So really, really great data there, Claudia. What did you think of that when you saw the target reveal?
Yeah, you said already in your feedback that a lot kept hanging on the sonar, and indeed I thought, oh my God, yeah. So, but yeah, what I found later when I looked at it, the line I made from alive turns into dead, and then no, and now it radiates. So I still am thinking about what meant that then. And yeah, but
Yes,
it kept on coming back this in the whole session.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah,
I
this
had to probe it a bit more.
I think it was very shiny to you. I think it was very shiny to all the viewers. Like we saw Patrick did, his whole session was nearly all only about the sonar scan. So I think it was just something that was really interesting. But I do think you're right. Here, the craft is alive and then it crashes and it, you see it kind of skidding into the ocean floor. And then at the end, it's dead and it's not radiating energy anymore. So I think it's good data. Michael was saying in chat here that he kind of has this idea of, where is this comment? At the end of the line of sight image, maybe it shows a crash trajectory. I think that makes sense. Definitely, Michael, yes, that the craft was trying to fly in a straight line and then it crashed into something else and then we see it diving into the ocean, or maybe there wasn't an ocean there at the time, so we see it crashing into the land. So that was really interesting to see. And then it was interesting as well because, Claudia, you had this idea in your pages about the sonar scan, that there's an easier solution, that there's an easier way to do this in terms of the sonar scan. And I thought it was interesting because Michael echoed that in his session where he's like, there's an easier way to do this. And so...
Yes, but I'm also meant there's an easier way to get a response from the anomaly, as if this thing can open. There's some kind of life, and that there's a very easy way to get into that. So I don't know why. I have an idea, but it's too much
Tell
to
us
say
what your
now.
idea is. Tell us what your idea is. How would be an easier way for them to get into the craft without damaging it?
Well, I thought I was thinking about this because a lot of people are talking about glass, and nowadays you have these cables, with glass
Fiberglass?
fiber in it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know the English word, but I thought maybe just drill some holes and put these in it. So if there is something that they can communicate through that, like internet.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Something like that, because I saw these things between kids, like communicating with these two cans. How we did it in 40 times.
I think that might be the sonar beam transducer. We'll see that in a couple slides. One of the things that Pedro is saying is, Pedro, not Pascal, says, perhaps because the sonar is treasured by the researchers. I think that might be it. And I think because there's been so much focus on the sonar data, because that's all we have really so far. And so I think that that's a main element on everybody's mind that's kind of looking at this. So that would make sense. Here, Claudia, a really, really beautiful sketch of the sonar beam. So again, I felt bad for the viewers that spent all this energy.
But also, I saw clearly also the ice crystals, and the number 5. So later when I saw Cody's 5-point star with the glass, I thought, maybe it's related with that.
Yes, I wish there was more data to kind of, I think maybe Michael had something similar, so we'll have to look through his data as well.
Just for Cody, because I think it was your data. That image that no, it's you can stay on the page you're on. This is just for Cody. If you look at that image in the upper left, it makes me think. I think you're the one that drew somebody drew the inside of an airplane. There were different propellers and stuff. There's a page, but if you look at the shapes of that thing, to me, I see like in the negative space and stuff the kind of that image possibly replicated in that image that you drew.
It was Evan's data. Yes.
Okay, Evan. Okay, yeah. It makes me think a lot of that image. It's like 20 slides back or something, but
that's a good catch, David. Yeah, Evan, what do you think of that?
Sorry, which image? I've got storms rolling through here. My internet is really spotty.
Oh, sorry. So the image that you can see here at the top left,
Yes.
the beam pattern of the sonar beam, and it has these smaller side lobes and a central main lobe, and maybe that might match up with some of the propeller data.
Yeah, there is definitely a sense of something spinning.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah, you had like an image of like, I think it was the interior of the plane or something. You had this shape that was right in the center that looks just like that thing. And you had like windows or something, but to me it looks like those shapes basically. Anyways, it's fine.
I think that was Jeff, yeah.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of the data that had to do with this shape in particular. So here we see Patrick again giving amazing level of detail to describe how the sonar scan works. He has circular movement, harmony, continuously, it's set in motion, the idea of searching. So it was really interesting to see that in the data. And Claudia, you were mentioning the cans, 2 people, like with children who tie a cord between 2 cans. I think that this is the multi-beam sonar transducer. So again, I think that that's kind of the tech that it's relating to. Because really what they're doing is they're just sending sound against the seafloor and then receiving it back. And then from that, which is pretty simple, they're mapping the ground. Here's more of it. So in another part in your session, you have it as music, pipe organ music, and the long pipe. So again, I think we're talking about the technology there for the scan. The beeping, the Morse code, right? Because it's a pulsed sound frequencies. So it was just really interesting to see, but it did take and like here we see, and it was interesting as well to see how it comes through to different viewers, right? So Patrick had it, really energetically, and Claudia, you're really the music of it. And Evan, you have it as like a Gatling gun. So, right, again, that percussive kind of a sound. And both Evan and Claudia have the can with a string on it. So I thought that was kind of funny just to see. It was kind of cool, the synchronicities. And Evan here again, very much like Patrick's data, a lot of similarities between your data and Patrick's for the sonar scan and how it works. And again, that the transducer, the can, and then the energy flowing out of it, the beams of energy of sound frequencies. Yeah, so just a lot of that. And Chris as well. So I think this is a really good depiction of that, of the sonar as an eye that's watching this, looking. Is there another way that you interpret this data point, or what do you think?
No, it can make sense. So like I put, the idea here was really that there were 2 concepts. One was the angle. So somehow the angle is important. And the second was the observing aspect. So it ties to what you were saying.
I think so. Yeah. And I think it was a good match. You know, Cody has this idea of something triangular that makes it 3D. And that's exactly what's happening, right? Because they're making a 3D map. So I thought that was really good data for this the scan. Here we see John talking about the scan. And so I just wanted to show like everybody had data and a lot of data about this. It was just super shiny. Michael, the sparks near the bottom and then it vortexes outward. And so just interesting to see. And I think as well for remote viewers, I think it's good to pay attention to this, to realize just because something is, I don't want to say mystical, but oh, it has to do with frequencies and energies and oh, it's exploring. Sometimes things that are most captivating to us are target adjacent. And as a remote viewer, it's always tricky to separate out what am I interested in and what is the task you're wanting information about. That's always really challenging. And sometimes it's just so shiny that you can't help but be pulled into it. And so just things to think about. There was some data that could be talking about a craft, but it could also be talking about the sonar. And because it has more data that points to the sonar, I felt like I would have to interpret it through that lens rather than assume that they're talking about the spacecraft. So that relates to, you know, there's this data here in Patrick's session that we could say, oh, is he describing the UFO and how it's flying? You know, the force field and interaction, maybe, but it's possible. But I think because the rest of his session is so deeply embedded in the sonar scan and the similarities between this data and some of his data that has to do with the sonar scan, I felt like it would be maybe irresponsible of me to try to present it as though, oh, here he's talking about the UFO. But that doesn't mean that the audience has to agree with that. The audience might look at this and say, I think this is talking about the UFO, and you're free to do that, right? This shape in particular, we saw this in the video, that dome shape. We saw that in the divers kind of panning over that in the beginning of the video from the Ocean X team. And so at first I thought, is that what this is that he's drawing? But in my folder, when I assign the target, I always do research a little bit before I assign a target to see, has this been debunked? Is there interest in this? Is there enough here that's verifiable that would make for an interesting target for remote viewers to work? And so sometimes I save some things because I think, okay, if I do give this as a target, I want to have some information pre-prepared just to lighten the amount of work I have to do later on. And so I had this image already in my folder. And so I do, because of that, it's not clear to me if Patrick is describing a combination of what was seen in the video along with the sonar scan of this kind of dome-like shape. And this is unrelated to the Baltic Sea anomaly. So that's why it's hard to say. But I do think that if you want to, you could also interpret it as relating to the ship itself on the bottom floor. Yeah. And that's, I think, part of the tricky work of being an analyst is sometimes you have to make those judgment calls. And to be a responsible analyst, you can't just say, oh, this is a UFO, we're talking about aliens, this is what's going on. You really have to be responsible and say, how much can I actually defend this? If I am put in a position where someone says, okay, but this is actually, it looks like it's more relating to sonar, can I defend the position that no, this is definitely talking about some kind of a UFO? And I think I would like to see more of that in the remote viewing community, a little bit more consideration put into, can you defend what the position that you're putting the data in, the perspective that you're presenting on a data set? Because I know it's very clickbaity. You can say, oh, look, we have, you know, remote viewing about a UFO. Okay, but are you sure? Or are you bending the data to your beliefs? And so I think it gives the rest of the data more importance because we're being careful, because I'm saying, you know what, this data could be interpreted differently, but for this, I'm interpreting it as having to do more with the sonar scan, just to be responsible as an analyst. But again, you can disagree, and you can tell us in chat, tell us in the comments below what you think about this data. I've showed it, I've left it on screen for long enough that people should be able to kind of look through it and get a sense of it. And then here again, when I look at the totality of the data for this session, more of it fits into the sonar scan. And here again, for Michael's data, where are we talking about the sonar scan, or are we talking about something else? This idea of an artificial sun that's illuminating in front of the real sun, and these observers that are maybe being deceived. There's this man who's in the waves of the sun, and this idea of testing, simulation, mimicry. What do you guys think?
I'm not sure. I find it to be very interesting, and definitely can see some of the correlations to the current work, the body of work, but
it's hard sometimes, right?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, there's really interesting data, and I could interpret it in a lot of different ways, but I'm trying to really be conservative. And so Claudia, in relation to the sonar, waves, radiation, energy, radiographic communication, echo, sonar, you even had the word here. So really good job on getting that. And then John, for you, it comes through as like sounding the horn. And you had that a couple times in your session, that sound. Someone, I can't remember who right now, but they were talking about loud. There's a lot of sound. It's really loud. And so I think you're experiencing that. And then this as well. So this ties into, I'm not sure what to make of this, because obviously we don't have very much data about the Baltic Sea anomaly. Hopefully that will change. But Michael is talking here about an artificial sun, a simulation, simulacrum, a substitution we saw earlier on. And then here we see, John, you're talking about swapping the original for a fake. And Cody, you kind of get the sense of Ocean's 11, which is funny because you're talking about the ocean, but it's this idea of putting in a fake for something real. Does anyone have insights on how to interpret this in relation to this target now that you've seen more of the data?
I don't have any idea about. I just don't know enough about the details of the anomaly itself. But I felt pretty good about this perception, and I had I want to say I had a similar one like that as well. Maybe people exchanging something, and no one noticed, or something like that. I definitely had a deception aspect to it, but I can't really make any sense of it. I was hoping with other people's data I would. So we'll see.
Well, at that point when I got that, I was going right into some sort of Ocean's 11 heist. So that sketch would be just like the planning stage of it. But yeah, I don't know. I think Ocean's 11 was trying to tell me Ocean X.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's funny.
That's cool. I like that.
Michael also says, I think in his image, that he thinks it's the waves bouncing off parts of the man's body like sonar.
Yes. Yeah, I think that makes sense. And then, Chris, do you want to say a few words about this, about the now, the past, and the future? Because this might give us some insights into the groups that maybe got knowledge from, if there was a survivor, how they might have used it, how they might in the future.
Yeah, so basically it's a timeline related to the target. So the now here, I had again this kind of dripping rain thingy. So it's water falling. It's falling down. Information is released. So that can kind of make sense with today. It's underwater, and there is some information that's being released. So here it's purely literal interpretation, I would say. In the past, I had this visual of a crown. As the golden age, they own everything. I don't want to go into crazy territories, but it seems like whatever that is, some people are aware of it, and there is something around it for sure, and people are in the know. In the past, they were probably the kings of that knowledge. Let's say it like that. So that's how I interpret it. And in the future, I had this visual of a dragon, and I wrote "Dragon flies against the wall, destruction, fire, the end of an era." So if this is something that is known by some internal groups, it seems that at some point maybe it will come out, or it will become known to the general public, and that could be the end of a secret era, or that's the way I can interpret this now, knowing what the target is.
Yeah, I would agree with that interpretation. I think you're quite correct. I think it's really interesting, and especially the past, the data that, again, like you said, right, the groups that have the maybe more advanced information and how they can use that to help them maintain their control over the rest of the humans. Michael chimes in, maybe the Ocean's X is the heist data related to the star-shaped artifact. That's interesting, and I think that that's a good insight, Michael. And related to that, here we have the mail going down the side of a building and then into a tight space. And Evan, you had that in that tight space as well, the cockpit kind of feeling. I think it was you, Evan, who goes down underneath and then up again. And John, you have it as a trap door. Again, this idea, it looks like they have penetrated. Someone has been in the Baltic Sea anomaly, it looks like. They've maybe broken in, they forced their way in. We have that data from a few of the different viewers. And again, it's interesting to see Cody, who's like, they went down underneath and then up through this small hole, square kind of trap door opening. And then we have John saying pretty much the same thing. Something's being lifted or pumped up from below. And that there's an opening where there doesn't seem to be one. And that relates a little bit to what Claudia was saying, that there's an easy way to open it, but that they're not necessarily using it. And then, you know, again, here, John, we have your data, the two parties, but nobody notices. And then someone's getting pulled into the middle. So secret things, secret people maybe going in, extracting what's in there. The idea from Cody's data of shattering the glass to get into it. John, for you, it came through maybe more as a seal, like a refrigerator door. So there's a seal, air pressure seal, and it's being broken through. Something collapses. Again, we saw the don't throw stones in glass houses from Cody, and Patrick was talking about glass houses as well. So there does seem to be some kind of a membrane that maybe they broke through in order to get inside and take the artifact. That maybe that's what they've done. They've replaced whatever was there with something else, but they've taken the original for themselves, or they've taken the real artifact. And John, you had data about reverse engineering. I thought that was interesting, and that ties into that idea of, was it the original makers of the craft that crashed it, or did somebody else come across it and then try to fly it, and they're the ones that crashed it? Was there, you know, is the US military trying to reverse engineer it right now as we speak? That might be a possibility. So I think that there's a lot of really interesting information there. This idea of something is hidden beneath. And John, you're mentioning a civilization lost. I think that there's a lot there that is suggesting the same kind of narrative, the same kind of theme. And then, you know, we talked about this earlier in your data, John, something getting washed ashore, maybe a vehicle or maybe a person. And you kind of had a lot of nice data about that. And then I thought this was interesting, maybe trying to detonate this. So is someone looking to, has a group gone in, extracted what they want from it, and are they now going to destroy it so that no one else can find out the information that they left behind? That would be unfortunate. If it does come to pass, then here's a marker of the remote viewing data about that. Claudia, we're talking about fiberglass earlier, and we see here in John's data trying to connect or correct the wires. So again, maybe trying to make this thing work the way it used to in order to try to get it open without breaking in, unsuccessfulully, I think. Yeah, and this is just more the Ocean's 11. And then we see here Dennis's face, a really great sketch there. Here's, Michael, in chat, you were saying that you thought maybe this is more the sonar, the light from that point going through the person, the structure, and you even say bodily structure. So you're not just saying the body. So I think it's pointing to that. And then in John, we have the exact same data point. The sun feels too bright, too hot for this life form. So again, I think, how do we interpret this? Is it that there was a survivor, and he came out to shore and met with the primitive tribes, and the sun here was different from the sun where he comes from, and he's experiencing it as too bright and too hot? That kind of fits with some narratives. Or are we, again, just talking about the sonar scan? John, do you want to say a little bit about some of your data that I have on this slide? Especially this idea of come to me, trying to send out a message. Do you feel like that has more to do with the craft and maybe a survivor, or do you feel like it has more to do with the sonar scan?
That's a good question. I was kind of clueless about the whole sonar thing until I actually saw the slide deck. But the bottom one, that come to me, that definitely felt like there was intention from a subject or some sort of intelligence that's sending out a message, an actual message of a communication directing them to come or something. But the top one, that one could very well feel like a sonar type of a thing, where it's just these sonar waves or whatever extending and kind of just disseminates through everything around. So I don't know. That's a good question. It can be either. Interesting.
It might be both. We've seen that before in a lot of data, where one data set actually provides different levels of meaning, and they're equally valid, right? So you might be just being efficient by you having one sketch that communicates different messages. So the sonar, yes, but also maybe a survivor trying to send a message out saying, come rescue me, I'm stuck on this place. In terms of the Ocean X, Michael says, Ocean X Ocean's 11, the movie has a lot of A-list celebrity names attached to it, which might be checkerboard adjacent or affiliated. I love that. I think that's very true. Yeah, exactly. The checkerboard floor people. Yeah. And so here we see Michael's data about, again, if we want to entertain the possibility of a survivor. So here Michael's depicting these tribal people in the forest, and they're wary, concerned maybe. They're curious. They are indigenous to this place. And he brings up the idea of a cargo cult. A cargo cult is when a very primitive tribe of people are exposed to a civilization that's more advanced. They don't understand. They attribute things to magic. They attribute importance to godhood. So we saw it during the war when the planes would drop cargo for the soldiers, and the soldiers that came into contact with primitive tribes. And then to this day, some of those tribes create straw planes that they think are vehicles of the gods, and they think that if they worship enough, the straw planes of the gods will somehow drop gifts from the gods, because that's what they interpreted was happening when the war supplies were being dropped. So again, this idea of a technological civilization that interacts with primitive tribal people. I think this is really, really fascinating. And Dennis said in the chat that it looks to him, or to their group, that this crash was prior to the Ice Age. So that would fit with that idea. I think it's just really interesting. Also, in Michael's data, there's the idea of beatification. I don't know how to say it in English. I know the word from French. When you make someone into a saint. And John, you had that idea of like maybe something that is related to the divine. And so again, I'm wondering if that was the interpretation that the primitive humans had of maybe the survivor of the crash. would be interesting. And again, you know, there's the people in the forest, and we're going to see that in other people's data as well. And then here, Chris, your Mad King. Do you want to talk to us about how this came through? When I looked at your data, it hurt my heart. I could feel the isolation, the frustration of being an advanced being that is suddenly having to live amongst primitive humans, and just the level of torture and hardship that would be. So my heart really hurts for this poor Mad King. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how that data felt for you?
Yeah, it was really similar. So it was really a feeling of someone that looks older than what he actually is, and that was very hairy. So not taking care of himself. The picture shows that. So probably somebody who just was in a really big depression, or not being happy at all. And I had the sense that he was depressed, going mad slowly, and that even though he was there were people around him, he felt so lonely. And yeah, I put the Mad King as a reference of somebody who has power but who's powerless. So that's kind of what came here. So yeah, I wrote it's how it ends. Everything is on his shoulders. It's his destiny. Aristocrat. So it seems like he used to be someone important in his culture or whatever, but he seems like he ended up somewhere he doesn't belong to, and that made him go a bit mad. That's kind of the feeling that came out of that.
Maybe the captain of a ship, and then he ends up living in a jungle with a tribe of primitive humans that don't know anything, that are illiterate. Yeah, that kind of, it hurts to see that. It hurts to to see your data. I can feel it in the data, the pain. So
yeah, if she would be the sole survivor of an advanced civilization or something like that, yeah, I can understand that if you're the only one left, you could go a bit depressed.
that's right. And that was interesting data. And then what was really weird is that Evan, you also had a really hairy man, but you kind of had him more as a wolf man or a dog man. And it's funny because if you look at Renaissance paintings of some of the monks are depicted as dog men. And there is this rich cultural tradition in Europe of a species of dog-like humanoids who were very intelligent, very educated, very religious, and they're depicted in medieval art. So it was strange to me to see you describe this wild man as maybe a dog man. What do you think about that?
Yeah, definitely a wolf man. To me, it felt more like there was something genetic going on. So going back to maybe what some of the other viewers were talking about with genetic collection or experimentation, it felt more like that. But
We saw that
definitely a
in
hairy
Jeff.
guy.
Yeah, we saw that in Jeff's data, the X and the Y that I did
Right, yeah,
from Sol.
exactly. Yep.
And that they were doing experiments and harvesting data. So maybe they were, dabbling. That's interesting. And Claudia, you also had the sadness, the missing someone data. So I was wondering if that related to this. Michael was saying, because the people in chat are on a bit of a delay, so their comments are always going to be about slides that we covered a few slides ago. The person with the sun shining on observers being relevant to, I think, this data. Yeah, I think related to this here. That would make sense. And then Michael also has this holy man, the bearded man, and he's wearing, a starry kind of cloak. Someone with heightened sensitivity or heightened gifts, maybe an elder with diamonds or stars on his robe. So again, relating to the star artifact, maybe. And then what you were just saying, Evan, about the experiments. Michael talks about maybe experimenting with some of the people, maybe experimenting with a disease or a condition, or maybe the human condition. And I thought that was really insightful. Again, if you are a survivor and you think that someone's going to come rescue you, but they never actually do. And so now you are experimenting with the human condition of living as an advanced, technologically advanced, educated person in the midst of primitive human tribes. So, and then, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, Michael says it looks like Chris's shipwrecked man, the face, but also, I was just thinking because I can't get out of my head now, the top of his head looks like a clam, because you're talking about the star. So another possible link would be the drawing at the top looks like a clamshell.
Oh, yes.
To me.
Yeah, the man from the ship, the man from the starship. Yeah, definitely. I think that would be, it does seem to me that there is indications that the data as a whole is pointing to a survivor of this wreck. And then he goes onto shore and is worshipped as a king. And like we saw in Chris's data, that's nice, but it's not enough to be worshipped by primitives, right? Michael is telling us about people being ignorant, and that makes them vulnerable to exploitation. That fits in a little bit, Evan, with what you're saying. Like, were they just here to experiment on the humans? Were they here to dabble in their DNA? And then we're seeing data about learned science of people, their corruptibility, so the study of humans, their morality, spirituality, and even eventually the physicality. So interesting data. And then, Claudia, what do you think about your data here? Do you think it relates to this at all, or how do you interpret this?
Well, I noticed throughout a lot of sessions from me that sometimes I pick up things in the location, in the area of the thing. So I checked in Sweden, Finland, where there was something there, and then I saw that in Sweden you have a lot of high mountains there, and well, also some kind of religious churches. So maybe, and I saw some pictures on the internet where it was fully snowy and very cold. So
Yeah,
maybe it had to do with that, because I
maybe
saw it was the location is in between Finland and Sweden, if I saw
that's
it right.
interesting. So it's
Yeah.
kind of close to the Baltics, or to the Baltic
Yeah.
Sea. And then here, do I have this in? Yeah, so here you're describing someone, and I think that this is someone on the Ocean X team, actually. And I have a picture in a few slides. But I think it's the skeptic physicist who's like, now what do I do? How do I make sense of this?
Yeah, I saw really someone sitting on a desk and then with his hands in his head. So what is it? Yeah.
And we saw that in the video, and so I thought that was a really good description of him, of what he's going through, trying to find answers. Like, it doesn't add up. How is it that there's a ship prior to the Ice Age that maybe flew through the air? Now, this, again, it's a strange correlation in the data between Evan and Claudia. So you both have this being with a helmet on, and it's weird, and and I'm trying to make sense of it. And Claudia, at first, when I was going through your data and I saw this, I thought, this might just be a continuation of the sonar scan, but you're just actually putting it on the head. But it's really just about the technician who's dealing, I think, let me see. Yeah, here, the technician who's interpreting the sonar scan information, right? But it could be interpreted differently, I think. It could be something else. If it was just your data alone, I would say, yeah, this is just you're misinterpreting that the technician is listening to the sonar. Maybe he's looking at the output from the software, and this might be him. But then I saw that Evan also has this man with a strange helmet on, and then he has it in relation to the barking dogs, and we just talked about the dog man and genetic manipulation, and there's some weird data here and this is what ties it all together. Klaus Donna, in his artifacts, the pyramid with the eye was the target for November live stream. One of the artifacts that we talked about then was this helmet, this stone helmet. It just looks so much like the helmet in your data, Evan. And it's just a weird correlation that brought me to some of the Klaus Donna artifacts. And there seems to be a relationship between the Klaus Donna artifacts and the anomaly on the Baltic seafloor. So we're going to investigate this just a little bit. There's this weird, I think it's new data from Dennis's team, a pyramid with a circle in the center in the structure on the ocean floor. So we're going to kind of investigate that coming up.
Just to go back one or two more, that one there. So Cody drew a helmet. I think he interpreted it as a mask, but if you look at his drawing, he had circles for the eyes and a hood. And Claudia has circles around the eyes of this person. And the Evan, when I looked at Cody's, like you said, it's a scuba mask. It's like, yeah, absolutely could be that. But it also looked a little bit like Iron Man's helmet, what Cody drew. And I see this Rocketeer kind of helmet from Evan, meaning like I see some similarity, but I also see it splashed across with Claudia because she's circled the eyes just like Cody did. So I'm saying like, that's like fascinating because I can see a conglomerate of this like spread across reviewers.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good insight, David. It's quite curious. I don't quite know what to make of it. I don't know what it's pointing us to. Because Evan, you have here, reminds you of Magneto. That ties into David seeing Cody's helmet a little bit as the Iron Man. And then you have the iron helmet essentially.
And Claudia's could be interpreted as magnetic waves, not like sonar too, right?
Yes.
I'm just saying it's kind of weird. That's all.
It was more than a helmet for sure.
Right? And so we've heard of, I think we've all heard the tropes of UFO crafts that are powered by psychic beings that are, strapped down into chairs and they have helmets on them and it's their psychic ability that makes the craft fly. And so I think, is that what you guys are describing? Is that what the data is hinting at? I think that's amusing and really fascinating if that's the case. And again,
when I saw it, when I saw it, I thought, was this the diver then? Simplistic diver, but
it could be more. We need verification. We need more data, but it's definitely really intriguing data. And then, Evan, you also have the large man with the cowboy hat. We're going to see that coming through again later. And he has the pack on his, the large pack. So at first I was like, is it the sonar in the kit that the team Ocean X guy is carrying with him? Hard to say. John, you had a lot of data here. Is there anything here that you wanted to highlight?
Yeah, there was a couple things. On the left, I definitely, when I said I smelled smoke burning, and then on the top right, I said it feels like a scene after a disaster. I had a really strong hit on it felt like, just wreckage, like almost like a street scene in a city where something had crashed or exploded, and there's kind of chaos and smoke going everywhere, and people rushed around trying to help people or tend to whatever needs to be handled. But it was a very strong hit on some sort of disaster just happened, and people were dealing with it. And then I did get a hit on sadness, fire spreads. Someone seemed to be happy about something that's not good. I had that another time in my session. I don't know what that was. And then on the right, bottom right, I had a short subject next to a tall subject, and it felt not necessarily short or tall, but different people meeting each other, and like I don't know if that could fall into the category of, a survivor, meeting people that aren't like him or her or whatever. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, I think that's great data. It's amazing data, right? You do have the crash, and even this idea of someone's happy about evil. Are the people who are extracting relics from it now grateful that it crashed, right? I kind of wonder about that, because they're getting maybe energy out of it or data. Yeah. So excellent data. And then, everybody gave a little bit of data about the ocean floor. So that was just kind of nice to see that you guys were getting really good target contact. And Claudia as well, right? You're talking about the frequencies, and so a little bit of the sonar mixed in with the ocean. So really nice, really good to see. A lot of correlations in the data. I think we talked about this before a little bit, but the shoreline and the things on the beach, the triangle. Again, it seems like this maybe wasn't a ship alone. It might have been part of a contingent. I don't know. And then everyone starts talking to me about Easter eggs. And it's funny because of the references to movies. A few of you were like, oh, I feel like I'm watching a movie, or I feel like I'm watching a documentary while I'm, remote viewing. And so the term Easter egg, right? Are there going to be little secrets hidden in the documentary that gets made about this, about the new findings? That would be curious. But again, really good job of just describing the egg-like aspects of the ship. It's fragile. It's hollow on the inside. There's valuable stuff on the inside. And then even just the idea of resurrection on Easter, being brought to life again after death. The craft is dead. Are they extracting energy sources? Are they powering them up? Are they trying to do something with them that brings it back to life? I think that would be interesting. Just the energy source. And then, Chris, your maps are always excellent. And I think you did a good job here. It kind of fits in, if you kind of look at this, into the Baltic Sea area. I think your maps are getting better and better every time. And Jeff's map was very similar, and also I think fits into the Baltic Sea area. And Evan, you had that sense of water and a map. There's a commotion there in the water. And then a little bit more about the star-shaped thing that Cody told us so much about. And so now we get to the weirdness. As I'm working on this, some of the data feels familiar. It rings a bell. And then something in, I think it was Michael's session, I remembered I've seen this before. And I go and I look in the November folder at the sessions that were submitted for the Klaus Donna artifacts target, and all the data maps on. And I'm going to share a little bit of it. And then afterwards, we can talk about why this happened. What does it mean? What might the connection be? So here's the original cover, the thumbnail for the video in November. And what's interesting was everything that could go wrong went wrong for me that week. And there was interference with just life in general kind of interfered. And I didn't get my slide deck done. And then the live stream started. I was completely disorganized. I didn't have my slides done. It was just a mess. And I didn't do a proper analysis of all the data. Even though I had been so excited about your sessions, it was weird. And then now it feels as though that data was for this target. And so I'm going to show you a little bit about why I'm saying that. And I'm not saying it was, I'm saying it feels like it was. And so, and again, it ties into this really strange thing that I found on Dennis's Facebook. So here you can see, it looks like snow, but this is sediment on the ocean, on the sea floor of the Baltic Sea, and this is the structure. And I don't know if you can see it because the image resolution at this size, but hopefully you can. There's a triangle here in the side of this cliff face, and there's a circle in the center. And this is the straight line is the actual surface of the craft, and then the puffy white is just the ocean sediment that's collected on top of it over eons. And the red and green markings here are just to emphasize so that you can see what I'm talking about. David, can you see that? Can you guys see that?
Vaguely, yes. Yeah.
Okay, good.
I mean, I trust you. I trust if I go look at it, I'll see it clearly.
And the red and green, the markings, I didn't add that. That's on the image that Dennis from the Team X expedition. That's from he put the markings there to showcase that. So he's recognizing and showing the world, look, on the side of this thing, there's this big triangle with a circle in the center on this craft, on this anomaly. And so here's the target that we did in November, Klaus Donna's pyramid with the eye. And we can see already this sketch, and we're going to see it in a few slides, is Cody's, is an exact match. So let's look at it. And then this is, I don't know what to make of this. Cody, this is your summary for the Klaus Donna data. And it was not super on target for the Klaus Donna target, but it's an exact match for today's target. So I wanted you to maybe, if you want to read this or tell us what you had here, and I just think it's so relevant.
Yeah, I'm going to try and remember. Yeah, I remember. What I do remember about that sketch is the blue circle felt like that was the way in. But I thought it was a massive pyramid shape, like that you could like walk up it and that. But that circle was the way in.
Interesting. So for Dennis, maybe they could try going into that circle on the side of the artifact there.
How big is it?
How big is this? We have data about the size of the craft, and I'll pull it up once I exit out of the presentation. But I think your sizing is actually accurate. I think that the height of the anomaly off the seafloor, what we're seeing here, and the size of that pyramid, I think that because we saw in the video the small divers that were kind of floating above the craft, I think you have the exact right size. So
Yeah.
go ahead, Dave.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, do please.
Just the stuff that I see, right? So like, it's interesting that in this session, again, almost a year ago, Cody, you've got snow, right? And Sasha just said, this looks like snow on top, but hey, it's sediment. I just find that interesting, but also the other thing that I just find it interesting. That's all I'm saying is it appears to be a double circle, and you drew a double circle around a star on the current session, right? And I see a reflection of this you didn't color the whole thing light blue. You have a white spot in the center, which could be a star. So I'm just saying, even though it looks different, you don't have the star shape. The other elements to me are there. And so to me, I see a correlation between these two sessions.
Definitely. Yeah, I think so too. And even, you have the scuba climber man. And we saw the backpack on the cowboy guy in Evan's work. And so again, the correlations here. And so Dennis, if you're still listening, let us know if that center circle in that pyramid is the access point. Is that the entry point? Is there some way to activate it? Is that the way in? Because that's what Cody got in his data. And so I just want to go back to your summary for a second here, Cody. So again, for the audience, this is the summary that Cody did for the session from last November. The location feels freezing cold, which the bottom of the ocean would be. Isolated, hidden away. There's an element of danger related to the temperature and altitude and remoteness. There's a man-made that is buried or submerged really deep in the ground or water. That's exactly what we're talking about. The man-made is curved. It's on a tilted angle, blue and white. The man-made feels really old. Inside it, it feels aligned, precise, circular, silent. There's things placed around in a specific pattern or orientation. I have to move this. The biological related to this man-made is or has qualities of, feels worshipped or godlike, royalty, ruler, mythical, is way above the rest. Again, we're talking about the survivor. He comes to shore and he's worshipped as a god or as a ruler. I feel this biological is now dead or missing. It feels like there's an expedition that happened through the snowy location looking for this discovery, possibly a secret expedition. So I think this is the Team X, Ocean Team X. Is that not bizarre? Like, am I the only one who's mind blown by this summary that seems to be an exact description of what we're talking about today, and yet was provided for a target that was about the pyramid with the eye on it from Klaus Donna that he found that is older than the Ice Age, is made from metals that you cannot shape in that way in our current atmosphere because those minerals are brittle and flaky. They're like leaves in our current world. But whoever made these artifacts made them with this in an environment, an atmosphere, an atmospheric pressure where this mineral was not brittle, where it could be softly shaped. So reactions from people.
Does that also tie in, because Cody said the star, in this current session was fragile? It just, I don't know, it's a lot of weird correlations is all.
That is so interesting. Yes, that maybe if it was made in an environment where it was hardy, and then in Earth's atmosphere with the oxygen levels, the nitrogen levels, maybe it becomes brittle, and all of a sudden you have to be really careful with it. It's very fragile. What do the rest of you think? Is anyone else as mind blown as I am?
That's crazy.
Yeah, I checked also my November session, and I found also correlations. So also the 5-point star, and I was also from, what does this mean?
Yeah, and so someone else whose data is a perfect fit that was submitted in last year's November for the Klaus Donna target that is a perfect fit for today's is John Dixon, who is also a great remote viewer. He's participated in some of our past live streams. He's worked with us. We really appreciate him as a viewer. He's testing out as a tasker, so I'm working one of his sessions now. Here's his data. So he has the shape. It's like an island, right? So surrounded by water. And he has this idea, an island, possibly tropical, maybe a lot of open fields. So if we look at, and again, Cody, you also got data of like when this crashed, it wasn't an ocean bed, it was dry land. So there's something interesting there. And then he says it reminds him of the Nordic or the Baltic. So he actually calls it by saying he's describing something in the Baltic region. And we're talking about the Baltic Sea anomaly. That blew my mind. He's talking about the, who was it? John, you were talking about the tall survivor, maybe creature encountering these short tribes people. And John Dixon gives us this super tall, skinny being interacting with these short beings. And then here he has, John, you had nearly the exact same picture. And I had told the audience to kind of keep that in mind, that kind of the dome shape. Here we have it from John. And I think it's a perfect match, not just to the data from the other remote viewers for today, but to the shape of the craft itself. I think this is mind-blowing.
So do you think then that the reason the data from this session is in the current one is because the object that was a point of focus for the November, that the reviewers were essentially pulling like the origin of the object, like the object came from these people or this craft or the history of this that's associated with this craft. And so there's such a strong linkage that they were actually harvesting back end data that's like it's stuff that you and I typically do. Like we'll go off in some like real in-depth thing and have all like this like 30 pages of stuff. But typically it's harder to see that if you don't know, right? This is one of those things like a normal, not this one, but like just a UFO in the sky. You're like, I have no way to verify that, right? Like there's no way to go verify 30 pages of data if any of that's correct. But in this case, if that's the case, it's interesting because it likely means that the viewers knew precogging, not them specifically, but their consciousness understood ahead of time, like, hey, this is we're going to do this other one. It is linked together. So I'm going to go ahead and pull, like in November, I'm going to go ahead and pull this extra data. Do you think that actually occurred?
Yeah, it makes me think that the civilization that was responsible for the artifacts that Klaus Donna found is tied to the civilization that had this craft that crashed in the Baltic Sea area. Yeah, there's an undeniable link. And I think that the remote viewers were kind of, I don't know, maybe their subconscious was prioritizing this information because it's more valuable, because we can verify it, because we can do something with it, bringing it to the attention of the T-Motion X, right? And so I think that that's the value here. And that's the amazing thing about the data stream. It sees in a nonlinear time way, and so it knows what you need and it gives you the data that you need, even if you don't know that you need it. Even if you don't need it now, but you're going to need it later. It provides it. It takes the opportunity. Oh, you're viewing right now and you're going to need this later, but you're not going to be looking later, or you're going to be distracted by sonar later. So I'll give it to you right now. And so it seems to me that that's what happened. I think that the sonar was such a distraction in all of the sessions, except for Cody, who really kept on track. He was telling me all about the star relic and the ship. But for the others, they spent so much of their mental and psychic energy on the sonar description that I think that the data stream was like, okay, well, here's an opportunity where you're not distracted, and I'll give you as much as I can about this. I suspect that's what happened. Like here we see with Cody, or I mean with John Dixon, right? You can kind of see that he's describing the top of the ship. He's telling us that it's partially hollow, that these are like wings. He's talking about the columns in it, the people being in awe. Here he's describing it under the ocean, right? These deep ridges that we saw in Cody's work, he described it as canyon-like. And here in John Dixon's work, he's describing it as like deep ridges or rows under the water. He has the structure. The propeller-like device that we saw in Evan's work and in a few others, here we're seeing it in Dixon's work. This fan, the folding, the shape-shifting aspect of the craft, here he has it as a paper airplane. Again, something that can fly, that can change shape, that's foldy or bendy. And he mentions that it's wet. So a folded like paper airplane that's wet and it's lightweight but strong. So again, that ties into Claudia, who keeps kind of in her session, she keeps mentioning that this is very lightweight and surprisingly. And again, here he has the circular shape of it, how it's constructed sitting on the seabed. Some of the angles of it, I think that's the angle of the crash, of the collision. So he's describing this exceptionally well. And then here he has a mother-like energy, and we saw that in John, that figure with the star above the head, right? And again, the tall being with the primitive tribe of humans, and that they're a different race, and that this taller being has something to do with the Pleiadian star system. So again, just I don't know what to make of this. It's so mind-blowing. And then Michael, here's Michael's November session, which was the first one that I looked at that really blew me away. He has this ledge over water where there's buried treasure or buried secrets, and it's an exact match. He has the shaft of light. He has the vehicle, the front of a vehicle, and it's like these columns. He has the staircase in stone, which we saw in Jeff's session, which we see in the anomaly itself, these stone stairs. He has exactly the same picture we saw in multiple sessions, including Jeff's, the flow between fixed states, that it can reshape itself, that it has these triangles that fold in to make a square. We've seen this in today's sessions. He has the checkerboard floor. And then with it on that same page, he has this architectural frame, which is a Freemason symbol. And so that, I think, is mind-blowing. He has the entrance to this thing. It's underwater, and it's terra incognita. It's an unknown territory. It's a secret entrance. We have someone in chat, or someone is trying to join. So let me go see who that is. Oh, it's Evan. Again.
So the checkerboard, he I don't recall in this current work he didn't do the checkerboard. It was other people, right? Yes or no?
It was Jeff and Cody gave me the checkerboard floor exactly the same, and where Cody had a star, Jeff had the horn shape, the antlered man.
Yeah, so because I think from Michael, and again, I don't remember everybody's session 100%, everything they've ever done, right? But I remember quite a bit, and it's like I don't think I recall. Like I suspect this is for the sessions that Michael has submitted to us. I'm making this statement for the general public because they don't know. I think that this is probably the only time he's done a checkerboard, and if that's the case, meaning like, oh, well, he just draws it every time. It's just a coincidence. Like, no. You don't understand. Like, this is probably the only time he's ever done this, ever, out of all the sessions that he's done over the past year or whatever. And so the chances that would, again, stats, right? What are the odds that he would, you know what I mean? Like the correlation, the connections, right? So to me, this one is like the other shapes are, I agree with everything you said. Like, I have no problem with it. But when you see something that is like less ambiguous, like a checkerboard is not ambiguous. Like it's very, a checkerboard floor pattern, right? That's very clearly not ambiguous. So that's a strong anchor. I find it to be really fascinating.
And even he has the jungle, right? The jungle gym that John was describing. He has it here as well. And then here, he pretty much gives me the logo of the Ocean Team X. And it's also the interlocking mechanisms. And it appears ceramic, so metallic, but maybe not quite. A processor of some kind of from the elements. So again, he's showing us, to me, that's shocking. And then he shows us the circular structure on a plane, exploratory, scientific retrieval, that their divers and passengers are coming here to retrieve something, and they're in communication with others. Here he has it as a platform, and he's talking about an ancient computer. And Claudia, here, look, Michael has this idea of fiberglass optics, the military and NASA being involved. Oh, there's a whole thing about NASA being involved, but there just hasn't been time. There's no time. There's too many slides as it is. And then he has the box with the power source inside. So what's interesting here is that in today's session, everyone's talking about the box, and there's secrets in it. And, secrets that have to do with mundane kind of governing stuff, but also some esoteric secrets. And here he's telling us there's also maybe information about a power source. And Michael in chat is saying someone else had an X shape protecting something earlier on. I think you're correct. Yes, Michael. I don't remember who, but speak up if it's your data for the remote viewers. But again, here, a person with a device in open land, so again, that idea of this is what it looks like prior to the ocean being there. person scientists, jumpsuits or uniforms, water, fluid. There's a vehicle and it's operational, and it's a grid and it's folded up. So again, that idea that this ship, it can fold itself up in different configurations. He has it as a half shell, a round object that's broken. That's perfect description. He has the sonar, the resonance amplification, an open round indentation or depression. This is the sonar, the signal against the background, looking for it. Here he has the boat, a manned craft on water. The large event, the explosion, so the collision. The sense of being aboard a craft in zero gravity, where experiments are conducted. That's fantastic data for today's target. And then the movie Sphere. In the movie Sphere, the US military finds a UFO on the ocean floor. They go down into it. In it, they find a metallic sphere, artifact, relic, ancient. They bring it on to their exploratory ship, research ship, and then it starts basically manifesting their thoughts, their imagination, their dreams. And what an interesting movie to mention in this target. I think it ties in so well. And he has the Klein bottle. I haven't seen him mention the Klein bottle in his other work, but in today's session, he drew the Klein bottle for the ship in the Easter egg section slide. I showed that data. And he's talking about the military, an insulating layer on a spinning object that's fluid or plasma. And then here the cross. Yeah, go ahead.
Just Michael had said the Klein bottle showed up in both of his sessions, just FYI. Yeah. But also, Cody has a 15-minute time check, just FYI.
Oh, okay. So maybe we'll finish up for Michael, and then we'll go to Cody's NFB, and then we'll come back for some of the other data for this. The segmented cross, again, we saw that in Jeff's data with the cross-like thing that folds in on itself to make the square. Here again, this is a different version of it that he calls a ninja star with a mechanical feeling. There's that propeller that we saw in a lot of people's work. Here are the beams with the holes. Structure that's by fluid. There's just, I don't know what to make of it. A pyramid in ancient architecture, and there's water. Again, here's in Cody's session, he had the shattering of the glass and the person coming up through it. And John had someone coming up through like a trapdoor kind of thing. And here in Michael's, it's a reinforced frame and it's pressurized. So that's relevant. The rocket launch, John, you had the rocket launch in your data that looked nearly exactly the same. The bird in flight, the man bird in flight. And then here's something stretched and under tension. And this sketch, again, looks a lot like John's. The bendy transformer nature of this craft. Oh, and he had the idea of a satellite overhead. So just amazing data here. He had the radio waves from the sonar signal tower looking for something. He had the coin that I showed earlier with the star that matches Cody's drawing of the star. And in here, Michael has the portrait of a coin. Just shocking to me. The interconnectivity, we saw that in his session for today. And then the three structures emerging. And so, Cody, before we get into this, we'll go to your NFE. So, oops. Cody, for our New Year's Eve show, did a prediction, and it's come to pass. And so we'll just quickly share that. And I had to close all my tabs with the links because I was trying to get rid of the lag. I realized that the lag is because the PowerPoint has so many slides that my computer can't handle it, and that's why there's lag. So it's just going to be lagging until I shut the PowerPoint, but I won't shut it till we're done. So Cody, do you want to start telling us a little bit about it while I reopen all those tabs?
Yeah. So I tasked myself with the most positive event of this year. And yeah, I just got like robot legs and stuff like that, and I don't know why. Didn't make sense. But I was randomly on Facebook the other night, and it randomly popped up that they just built pretty much what I described. And I got August, and it popped up in July.
So I'm going to
About
show
it.
a little bit of it. Maybe I'll open the email so I can show that. David, can you read the messages in chat while I bring up Cody's information, please?
Michael says this November viewing was a special session for him because it was his last session before starting his full spectrum and illumination training. Yeah, so while Sasha's trying to get that organized, what do you guys think of those connections to the November session? Do you think it relates? Doesn't relate? Does it blow your mind? Is it like?
It's pretty
weird?
crazy how much it lines up.
Do you think there's something to it? Do you think that there is that connection there?
Yeah. Even
Right?
in one of Michael's sketches with the wheel, there was an X with an O around it.
Yes, that's right. You're right. The star with a circle, and he had it as a X on a wheel with an axle. Good catch. Okay, I'm going to share. First, let's look at the session, Cody's session. So this was something positive that would occur in 2025.
Yep.
Are you guys seeing his work? Am I sharing?
No,
No, I can't do it.
Okay, well, let's try that again. And this is, Cody has to leave early, so we're just going to show this so that he doesn't have to leave before people get to it. Okay, so you have these notches, and then...
Yeah, so it all felt like a new sort of prosthetic, you know, thing, but it the way I described it and how it works kind of was how it is. And I don't know why this popped up for the most positive thing, but it is what it is. And it was pretty close to the timeline I got.
Oh, yeah, you had it in August 2025.
Yep.
And so we saw that he had the prosthetic.
Yeah, so it's like grafted into the bone, and it runs off sensors and things like that. But
for people,
it's crazy why that popped up.
So then now can I change it? I think I have to remove it and then re-add.
And I totally forgot I'd even done it. If I didn't see it on Facebook, I wouldn't have known.
And let me see. And so now I'll show you the video.
Yeah, there was a short video that pretty much explains it.
Okay, so I'll just put the volume on and we'll replay it from the start.
Body with sockets and feel like lifeless mass scientists just created a bionic knee connected.
So here's the bionic knee. I don't want to get zapped for using someone else's content, but we're doing commentary on it and we're showing. So here is the new, basically tiny robot, bionic knees. And this is exactly what Cody had described. And the timing is exact, it's precise. It's essentially a robot leg, like we saw in his session.
Good job, Cody. That's pretty amazing. And
timing
too.
I got that it was grafted into it and all that, so I'll claim it. It wasn't what I was expecting to get in that session, but yeah,
I think
I'll take that as a hit.
Yeah, it's an amazing hit. I think that's incredible. So really, really good job from Cody there. And that's the power of remote viewing. And it's harder to do predictive remote viewing for multiple reasons. And so the fact that you were able to get the prediction to that level of accuracy, I think that's really amazing.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, good job. It's very hard to do that, especially with specifics.
And I think you tasked yourself really well. The fact that you were looking for a positive event, I think that was the right way to do it. There's emotion tied into that, positive emotion. And for everyone who is getting access to these legs, I think there's a huge burst of positive emotion, relief, gratitude.
Well, I just remember it was in December, but I was just so burnt out. I thought I don't want to look at something negative. That's why I went that way about it. So
yeah,
I seriously didn't think it'd be a hit, that one, but I'll claim it.
So maybe we'll do a post on it on our Patreon to show it more clearly for people so that they can see it. I think that would be worthwhile.
Yep, no worries. All right, I'm going to get going, but great job, everyone, and thanks for the target.
Thank you so much, Cody. Thank you for all your work. You did so much work. Thank you. You did great work.
Yeah, no worries.
Good job.
See you later.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, Cody. Yeah, that's incredible. He did a really good NFE. Comments on that before we go to the last couple slides?
It's crazy. Mind blowing.
Yes. So much today, I think, for me at least, is mind-blowing. I think that was amazing from Cody's NFE. And, we have the NFE but the Pope from Claudia and Chris, and I'll put that up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'll put that up, let's say this week. I'll prioritize that because it should be up already. So the days are just...
That would be nice.
They do melt into each other, don't they? Okay, so let me share this. Okay, and then, yeah, so we're kind of going back through this and seeing everything that we saw and how it correlates now. Yeah, the coin, I just think that's so weird. All the correlations, all the data. There's a tremendous amount of data. A lot of echoing, mirroring, resonance between the viewers, amongst the viewers. And that was very impressive. Here's that checkerboard floor again. And the significance of it, I think, can't be overstated. And then all the sonar scanning. And then we get to this, the Mad King. And then this data. So we saw John Dixon's data. We saw Michael's data. And we were looking at Cody's a little bit. Here's more of Cody's data from that session where he has this underground surface level, a big hole, and like a diamond. I think it's talking about this. And here he has, again, the bendy, the pivot point. It feels like it can open or adjust at this point. So that would be interesting information. Here's the sketch of the Baltic Sea anomaly Cody was asking. So Cody, if you're watching this later, the thickness of the object, it looks like it's 4 meters. So what is that? Nearly 12 feet in height. And then you can see the stairway here that leads up. There are these corridors. Cody has, and this is in his November session, the doorway, the stairs leading up to it. Feels like someone's worshipped here, godlike, ruler. So again, he's talking about this person that we've identified that we're just calling, for the sake of argument, the survivor, the shipwrecked survivor. And then he feels like this is buried or covered and in a way protected this way or disguised. And then Chris, do you remember drawing this man? Because he's such an amazing match for the guy in the Ocean Team X.
Yeah, he looks like him, same position, self-assured. confident.
Right? There's something there, I think, definitely. I think you have his face shape, his kind of mad hair, curly hair, his kind of 5 o'clock shadow a little bit the next morning. And you have the main information that he's trying to explain something, and it seems like what is being told is only part of the story that they want us to believe, but there's another side to it. There's more to it. So again, that idea of secrets that are kept by some groups and then the information that's released to the public. You also had the shockwave and the circle with the track leading out from it. So I just thought that was really interesting. And then Chris, you had all of this. We saw in John Dixon, he had that fan-like thing, and you have it as an inverted diamond, which matches as well with Cody's. You have maybe the idea of a collision, an energetic collision, but also the idea of differing viewpoints and which story is going to be told to the public. You have the boat, anti-gravity physics. You have the propeller thing that everyone kind of drew. And then at the far right-hand corner here, the data about this suggested that was describing the sonar. When you look at this, what does that make you think?
It could fit, yeah. So that's pretty weird.
It's so weird. And then your maps. So this was earlier in your progress, but you can see this weird foot projection here at the top of your map. If you invert it, it kind of fits in the gap between Denmark here, right? Beside Denmark. So it looks like an inversion of that waterway. So you're kind of drawing from the North Sea and the Baltic Sea. But I mapped it in. I actually placed it in, and I was like, oh yeah, it kind of fits. You have Gdansk in Poland, where you have the south here, kind of arrow pointing, and it's an eerie match. Just here, you would have Helsinki at the top of this projection towards the east, right? That would fit in here. It's just odd. It's just really odd. You also had this other map you did because you did a original session and a retask. And I think that there are also matching elements of here to the Baltic Sea. And then we saw in today's session the idea that the box contains not just the star relic, but also text, information, papers. And you had that in that session for the Klaus Donna target. And it didn't really make sense in the Klaus Donna target, but it makes sense for this target. Something may be revealed. And this is actually the whole question, should this be public or not? This is what is being pondered, right? So are they going to keep the secret about what this is really all about? Or are they just going to tell us, oh, it's just rocks on the bottom of the ocean? And then you had this person here. So what do you make of this? Or is there anything here that you think would be relevant?
Here I don't. For the guy, I'm not sure, but the papers, that definitely makes sense.
Right? It's kind of weird. And then who's this? Patrick had the boat. He had the container with information in it, secrets, important messages and information, symbols, references, civilizations, collecting of information about civilizations, segmented, again, weird connections. He had this temple-like thing. And then it's interesting because the pyramid that he has on the top, he describes it as having to do with, it comes through as basically being maybe the sonar, a beacon type function for the triangle shape at the top. So there's the beacon, there's the sonar that's going over the temple. So I thought that was really interesting.
I also see on that upper left one, the center thing, it's got the shape on top. That's what Dixon drew, the same shape for his columns that went up at the top, they had the base of the top of the columns had that same shape. Then he put a
That's
star
right.
on top.
And also on Michael's session for today, the temple, he had those little kind of peaks on the top as well. And then Cody had the cowboy and then the man in the protective gear that could be a diving suit maybe. And we saw the cowboy in your session, David, or Evan. So that's a weird correlation with the cowboy hat and the divers. And then Claudia, I think your data here, maybe the idea of ancient knowledge, and you have the ice crystals here. You had them in your sonar data as well. And you have a pointy star of glass or crystal. So to me, that seems relevant. What do you think, looking at all of this?
Yes, exactly. That's what I meant. The 5 pointy star, glass, crystal. And also the triangle came back today in various sessions.
Yeah.
And what I also saw the dry sandy land, because someone else also talked about that today, that it was dry and sandy land where the thing crashed.
Yes.
But yeah.
And you have the surge that they're digging. It's an unexpected find. Accidentally, something of big importance is found. So again, that idea of accidentally finding it, stumbling upon it. I just think you had really good data here. The feel of a religious artifact, maybe. So just fantastic. Yeah, and so that is the end. So let me remove that. So what did you actually, before I ask you what you guys think, let me close my PowerPoint. So hopefully that will stop me from lagging. And what did you guys think?
A lot of data there, and a lot of it lines up. It's pretty crazy.
So many data. It's blowing your mind. So what does it mean? Indeed, what you said, that it's connected. The guy who was steering the UFO, is it the same civilization as the pyramid? Very interesting.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of it. So like there are two things that I'm looking at. I'm looking at what does the data from today tell us, right? All the submissions that were submitted for today's target. What do we make of that first? So we saw maybe a survivor. We saw a box that contained secrets and an artifact, a star-shaped fragile artifact. We saw everyone had amazing target contact, which was evidenced by extremely accurate and precise descriptions of the ship, the topography, all the data about the sonar scan. What do you guys make of that, just in and of itself, just of the current sessions?
Well, I had strongly the feeling that it can open or can react in a very easy way.
Yeah. So they don't have to break into it. They just have to find the easy mechanism. So for the, Ocean Team X, if you want us to task viewers with what is this easy way of gaining access to the craft without damaging it, that might be something that would be a good follow-up. That would be an interesting project, an interesting tasking. And David and I didn't work this one because for the monthly live streams, I come up with a target, I give it out for the public. And this is the regular group of remote viewers who work every month, amazing work, and we're seeing amazing group coherence, and we're seeing their skills develop at a nice speed, a nice rate of speed. And so, it would be interesting to see not just maybe a follow-up from the group, but maybe David and I doing sessions on this as well. For that, though, we would need to be blind. So you'd have to reach out. One of us would have to figure that out. And then the timing, it wouldn't be able to be done right away, because then we would know, oh, this is probably this way. the team Ocean X. And both David and I prefer blind targets. For me, it's easier because then I don't have to worry about trying to shield from my prior knowledge, expectations, beliefs. I just think it's less work to do a blind target because you're not having to filter. You just, whatever comes through, you put down on your page. Whereas if you're not blind, then you have to ask yourself, is this what I believe, or is this the data stream data? And so we don't do unblinded sessions for that reason. But yeah, so I think it would be interesting as a follow-up.
Now, did Ocean Team X see the data for this before the stream?
No, I just
Okay.
I sent the link on Facebook. I sent it to Dennis and to the team, and I sent it on X. And then I'm so glad to see that Dennis showed up in our chat. So it was his first interaction. I didn't send him the slides, but Dennis, if you want the slides, if you're still watching, let me know and I will email them to you. And I can email you the raw sessions if the remote viewers agree to that. So if you guys approve, then I can send your original session.
Would be great to know if there's anything validating or if they learned anything from this.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. So John, what did you think?
Yeah, it's pretty nuts. I was telling people earlier, I did this. I had this target, like, I don't know, several months ago, blind, and I had a crash. I had a craft crash or some sort of moving structure crash. So, you know, it was kind of nice to see some consistency there, but just seeing everyone's data and the sonar stuff, I don't feel like I tapped into the sonar stuff as much. But just seeing all that, it just blows my mind. I don't know. It just blows my mind.
Right? It's so interesting. You did good. It's interesting. I was, telling David this the other night that as the analyst, because now I know your work and I've seen your work, and I kind of know beforehand who's going to cover what, who's going to fall in and who won't. Like I would have expected Patrick, because he likes that complexity, that he would get sucked into the sonar. And John, I kind of know your style and I know kind of what you described. So it met my expectations. Yeah. So it's interesting to see, it's kind of nice, right? Who focuses more on, is there conflict? Who's involved? What is the conflict about? What is the outcome of the conflict, right? That if I want to kind of really focus in on that, I go to your session, John, because you're really good at covering that stuff, right? Cody is really straightforward. Here's what it looks like. And then he just draws it. We saw it with the microchip that we did, the biochip, right? And we saw it again here today. He's really good at he doesn't get distracted. He just goes straight to what is the tasking, okay? And then he just gives you exactly that. Chris, you're really good at telling me what the tasking is and then going into that. You always seem to know what the question is, so that's always fun to see. Yeah, and so everyone kind of has their own style, their own unique perspective, and so it's always fun to see and to learn more about you as a viewer, so that in future projects I kind of know, like, if this is the target, then this is the viewer that I'm probably going to assign to it, because they're going to get the data that I need and they won't lose too much focusing on things that maybe I'm less wanting information about. That can be very helpful. And even just seeing the coherence, like everyone here resonated with Cody's data. For some reason, Cody, this really piqued his interest, right? He really honed in on it. Every single page of his sessions were exactly on target, and the data was immediately graspable. No interpretation needed. It was just there on the page pretty much. And so it was really interesting to see that, and then to see that resonating through your work. But everybody did exceptionally well on this one. Michael is not here, but also did incredibly well, and as you all did. So it's just amazing to see as an analyst. It's fun to see that and to see the patterns. And then I don't know what to make of the November. I don't know what to make of the fact that your data for this target bounced in from November of last year. I still don't know what that means, other than the data stream is looking at keeping track of what you're doing, what you're involved in, keeping track of these sessions of your remote viewing for this team, this group. And I think that's interesting. Claudia, what do you think?
Yes, it is a very interesting subject, and I only wonder that basically no one was talking about the vessel. I mean the vessel which was exploring the issue. So that was surprising to me.
Yes.
But really focused on what was on the bottom of the ocean.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, nobody got kind of distracted by the boat itself that
No,
was looking for it.
yeah,
Yeah.
only the sonar. And now for next time, I know when I feel waves and see sonar that I have to look beyond it. You know.
That's a good point. Now you've all experienced what it feels like, the sonar. So now if ever you get a target that has sonar, you'll know, oh, I know this. I don't have to explain how it works. I can just point that, yeah, it looks like there's sonar scanning involved in this target.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's useful. And Chris, what did you think?
Interesting. I only did a small session here, but yeah, it ends with more questions, more new questions, as usual. Like the whole thing with the survivor. I mean, don't know what to make out of that. And yeah, the thing with the November session is really weird. I'm wondering why this session. That's a bit random. It's not like one person had like a perfect session there. It's like a lot of correlating stuff. So that's really weird.
Yeah, in everyone's session, it wasn't just one. Like if it was just Michael had data that seemed relevant, then I would have maybe just said, oh, that's odd. But everybody did. And it wasn't just relevant, it was extremely on target. We saw with Cody's summary, it's a perfect description of today's target. So I think that's mysterious. I think that the data stream works in mysterious ways.
Yes, also
or maybe
the fact that it was pointed out to you, the way you said how you came on it, it was so like it was steered from above or from the data stream.
Yeah, that's another thing that I didn't mention to the audience, but I mentioned to the viewers in my email to them. There was something that kept pinging me. And I've seen this data before. And it was kind of bothering me. And that's, when I'm doing full spectrum analysis, I'm open to the data stream, right? I kind of open that part of myself up that I use as a remote viewer. And so the data stream will sometimes give me interpretations and things that I should be researching or focusing on. And so that kept pinging me. So finally I said, okay, I'll listen and I'll go and look for that. And I was pretty sure, for some reason, I was like, I think that's November. I opened the folder and I use a pen mouse, and my pen mouse just slipped because I wear shielding gloves anyway. So my pen mouse kind of slipped out of my hand, and it opened up a JPEG of Michael's session with the checkerboard floor and the stone structure with a staircase. Everything was right there in front of me, and it was just such a weird chain of events, I suppose, right? So it just felt, when you're in sync, when you're on the path, and the data stream is talking through you. When those kinds of things happen, you stumble upon the right data, or you stumble upon the right interpretation. And so I think that was kind of at work here. People in chat, I wanted to say, thank you so much for joining us, people in chat. Michael, thank you for joining us in chat. I hope your vacation is doing really well. Michael says, lots of beautiful connections and corroborations. Hopefully someday we'll get to see how factual some of it is. I would like to go and explore the anomaly. Like, let's get the scuba gear on. So thank you. And we had Pedro and Pascal. Thank you for participating. Dennis, thank you for watching. And hopefully there was something useful here for you, or some insights that were at least interesting. Thank you, everyone. And for the audience, leave comments below. We do check the comments and let us know what you thought, or if you have information to add, especially for analysis. If you saw something in the data that we missed, then point it out. That's always useful. David, I keep wanting to call you Data. I think because we're in this sci-fi world today. David, closing thoughts?
Great work from everybody as usual, and you know, the analysis was amazing, and look forward to the next one.
Thank you, David. And
Yeah,
I will
thank you.
thank you, Claudia. And so I will put the new session or the new target for the next live stream. We're now a month behind because this was the August target and it's in September. But I'll put a target out with a deadline on Twitter, Facebook, Patreon. And we encourage, you know, anyone to submit. You don't have to be scared. I was thinking about this group of remote viewers that are consistently participating because the group coherence is so strong, and so you're getting that resonant effect, and because you're just doing this every month and your skill is getting better and stronger. I think it's becoming intimidating. I think maybe other people are afraid to submit because they see the level of your work. But I want to say to any other remote viewers, submit anyway and become part of the group, and you're going to learn from this, and it will improve your skill. I saw that as well when I worked with other remote viewers who were really good remote viewers. My skill improved a lot faster. You just learn what works, and you learn how to connect to the data a little bit better. Yeah. And so thank you, everyone. You guys did great work, a lot of work this month. I really appreciated it. Really professional remote viewers here. So hopefully something interesting will come of this, and hopefully we'll get more insights into the Baltic Sea anomaly. And so for me, this was fun. I appreciated it. I loved going through the data, parsing it all. It was quite an experience. So thank you, everyone, and good night.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.